Making money in GTA Online sounds simple, but the truth is, this city is filled with businesses, properties, and opportunities that can either make you a millionaire or waste your millions of dollars. Right now, there are 20 plus businesses in GTA Online, and if you don't know which ones are actually worth it, you could be grinding for hours for almost nothing. So in this video, I'm going to break down every major business in GTA Online, explain how they work, how much money they make, and which ones are actually worth your time in 2025. If you want to build a real criminal empire in Los Santos, this is the guide you need. And if you want to jump to a specific business, check out the timestamps in the description. Let's dive in. The very first thing you'll want to do in order to access the MC businesses is buy a biker clubhouse. And for this, location isn't super important. I mean, you could definitely go for the Hawick or downtown Vinewood clubhouse, both of which are centrally located on the map, and those cost under $500,000. But even if you're on the tightest of budgets and you're forced to buy the Great Chaparral clubhouse in Sandy Shores, it's honestly no big deal. In fact, it might actually be a little bit better than clubhouses located within the city, because look at how close it is to the math lab, Coca-Cola lockup, and a counterfeit cash factory. They're all located in a nice triangle formation around the Great Chaparral clubhouse, all within a couple miles from each other. So you can just set this clubhouse as your spawn point, load into a new invite-only lobby, and use a bike from your garage to speed off to any one of your main 3 MC businesses. Then when you have businesses elsewhere, you can again change your spawn point to, let's say, the nightclub or agency, and jump right back into the city. No big deal, so get whichever clubhouse fits your budget. As for upgrades, ignore everything except the bottom 2. You only need a gun locker and custom bike shop. The rest is just window dressing to make your clubhouse look prettier, and even the gun locker isn't really mandatory, as it just cleans up your weapon wheel, and it's not like an armory where you can actually modify your weapons and make them better. So once you have purchased a clubhouse of your own, you'll need to set things up. Visit your clubhouse, and your assistant at the bar will ask you to source some booze, which you can then sell for a profit. Along the way, you'll be attacked by a few lost MC guys, but it's no big deal. Bring the booze back and your clubhouse is now in business. In total, there are 3 different ways to make money with your biker clubhouse. First is the legal way through the bar and custom bike workshop. The bar generates passive income as long as you have stock, and it's kind of like the office safe that you have in several other businesses, but the payout is really not good at all. It's $25,000 for 4 real life hours, and then you have to do another resupply for it, and the resupply time does not justify the money you're making from that profit of the bar. The custom bike workshop, on the other hand, is going to be your best bet for real money making with the clubhouse, and this functions very similarly to the customer car delivery missions for your auto shop. Basically, you get requests from NPCs every hour or so, and they'll bring you bikes into your clubhouse. You can attach any modifications they've requested, and the cost for these will be covered within your paycheck once you deliver it. If there's no damage to the bike, you'll get $50,000, and I actually like it more than some of the auto shop deliveries because this is a guaranteed $50K profit, unlike the car deliveries, which can sometimes give you as little as $30,000 total if it's a low-end vehicle. And then finally, you've got the biker clubhouse contracts, which are outdated at this point to make money, and the only one worth doing is Life and Death Bike. So if you get that one on the job board, you might want to do it a couple times. Some of the other ones, like Fragile Goods and Guns for Hire, require 2 or more players, so you can't even do those solo. And overall, they pay you in peanuts, plus there's the awful time-based multiplier, so the more time you take, the more you're paid, and even at max time, these missions aren't worth it at all. So stay away from the biker contracts unless you really just want to do them for the novelty and have some fun. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay, with the clubhouse income out of the way, let's talk about which MC businesses are actually worth buying. There are 5 in total, and you can view these through the Open Roads website using the laptop in your biker clubhouse. These 5 businesses, in order of most to least profitable, are the Coca-Cola lockup, the math lab, the counterfeit cash factory, the grass farm, and then the document forgery office. There is a way to boost the income of your cash factory as well as your grass farm, which makes both of these a lot more profitable, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later in this video. For now, understand that these are the base profitability rankings. Straight up, I'm going to say that the document forgery office is trash and not worth your time. Pretty much everyone agrees with that, so don't buy it. The first 3 MC businesses that you should invest in are the Coca-Cola, the math, and the cash. Then you can add the grass farm later on, but those 3 are essential. And if you bought the Great Chaparral clubhouse location, they're also located right next to your spawn, so sell missions are going to be super easy. But just so you know, my personal MC clubhouse location is the Hawick location in the city. Now, after you purchased an MC business, any of the ones I recommended here, the first thing you should do is buy the equipment and staff upgrades. Without these, your profitability will take a nosedive, and the already mediocre payouts will become even worse. If you'd like an exact breakdown of how much profit per hour each MC business makes individually, I will leave a chart on screen that was graciously provided by Reddit user bsekian, so you can pause and take a look for yourself. Keep in mind, these are profit values, so they take into account the money you spend resupplying, and all the MC businesses in the game require multiple resupplies to fill up. For example, the Coca-Cola lockup fills up 40% of the product bar with each $75,000 resupply, and thus it requires 2.5 resupplies to get a full bar of product. Different MC businesses also require different amounts of time to process supplies, so they have different turnaround times as a result. Again, let's use the Coca-Cola lockup as an example. It requires 2.5 resupplies as opposed to the Cash Factory, which only requires 2 resupplies, but the Cash Factory also needs 2.67 hours to process each resupply, while the Coca-Cola lockup turns a full resupply into product to sell within just 2 hours. As a result, the Coca-Cola lockup can be filled up in 5 hours, while the Cash Factory needs 5.34 hours to fill up for a full bar of product. Payouts are also different for different types of goods, so for a full Coca-Cola lockup, you're getting $525,000 if you do a remote sell mission. However, do the same with your Cash Factory and you're only getting $367,000. At this point, I should also clarify that there are 2 types of sell missions that you can choose to do. You can either do local sells or long distance / remote sells. Local sells are closer to the business and they pay less money, but obviously the sell missions are going to get done faster and in less time. Remote and long distance sales are inside the city of Los Santos if you have a business out in the desert or vice versa, and they pay you out more. But before we talk about selling, let's first take a deeper look at how resupplying works. As you can see, there are 5 bars each on both the product and supplies meters. Each one of these 5 bars represents a certain amount of value, and in the case of product, it varies from one MC business to another. But one thing that stays constant between them all is the value of the supplies. You see, each of the 5 bars represents $15,000 worth of supplies. So when you do a full resupply, that's $75,000 you're spending, and it is the exact same for every MC business, all the way from the lowly document forgery office, all the way up to the mighty Coca-Cola lockup. And as I explained earlier, you need multiple resupplies to fill up that product bar all the way to the top. The exact number of resupplies required to fill up the product bar will vary as each business has different efficiency values, and the more efficient a business is, the fewer bars of supply it needs. In addition to efficiency, MC businesses also have a second variable that I call turnaround time, and this is the amount of time it takes for them to process a full round of supplies, so $75,000 worth of supplies. The total amount of time needed to fill that product bar is obtained by multiplying the number of resupplies with the turnaround time. So for example, the grass farm is filled up by 45% with every round of resupplies, and it needs 2 hours and 24 minutes, or 2.4 hours to turn that full round of resupplies into product ready for you to sell. At 45% efficiency per resupply, we need 2.22 resupplies to fill up our product, and if we multiply this with the turnaround time of 2.4 hours per resupply, we get the 5.32 hours, which is the total amount of time needed to fill up your weed farm with product. And using this same method of calculation here, the Coca-Cola lockup needs 5 hours to fill up, the math lab needs 6 hours, and the counterfeit cash factory needs 5.34 hours. As you can see, they all need about 5 to 5.5 hours to fill up, except for the math lab, which tops the chart at 6 hours. Now, I don't recommend selling all your MC businesses at the same time, because that can take up a whole gameplay session, and honestly, it's just no fun driving around in garbage trucks or flying dodos for 2 hours in a row. Instead, there's a trick you can employ to only get one sale vehicle. And that trick is called selling once you've got 1.5 bars of product. That's it. Any more and you risk the chance of getting multiple sale vehicles. And honestly, yeah, it's embarrassing to run multiple sale vehicles for half a bar of Coca-Cola or half a bar of math when you could have done the same thing with a full bar of product for way more money. So if you've got more than a bar and a half of product, you might as well just wait it out and sell the full package instead of distributing it into bits and pieces over a longer bit of time. So the bottom line, 1.5 bars of product or less for a guaranteed single sell vehicle. Any more and you might as well wait out the entire time the bar takes to fill up. By the way, I see a lot of confusion regarding the local versus long distance sells, and most people think that if they go local, they won't get multiple vehicles. This is obviously wrong. The number of vehicles you get is only tied to the amount of product you're selling. It has absolutely nothing to do with how far or how close you're traveling, and so if you've got 2 or more bars of product, you can choose to sell local and still get multiple sale vehicles. There's absolutely no reason to go local in my opinion with any of your MC sales unless you're worried about getting griefed in a public lobby and you just want to speed up the time it takes for you to sell and get to the next activity with ease. And overall, there's still sort of a risk-reward balance in selling in public lobbies versus invite-only. If you go the invite-only route, you'll get a guaranteed $525,000 every time you sell a full bar of Coca-Cola. Do that same sale mission in a public lobby this time with at least 20 people, and you stand to gain an additional 50% on top of that. On the flip side, you also stand to lose every last bit of product when your garbage trucks inevitably get blown up by an attention-starved 12-year-old with their oppressor Mark II, ruining 5 straight hours of progress as well as $187,000 worth of resupplies. So it's totally up to you. If you like living on the edge and don't mind a bit of action, you absolutely can go into a public lobby and drive a bunch of slow vehicles around for 30 minutes, praying that someone with an itchy trigger finger doesn't get in your way. Personally, I don't think the risk is worth it, especially when the game gives you a bunch of awful vehicles that have zero defense. At least with the Nightclub, you get a Speedo Custom, which can tank 7 RPGs, and it comes with a machine gun turret mounted up top. Same goes for the Pounder Custom, which has a rocket launcher and mortars. Plus, you can hook both of these up to an Iron Mule, activate Ghost Org, and just book it to the delivery location within a few minutes. You cannot do the same thing with MC sale vehicles because apparently they're bolted to the ground and they won't budge no matter how hard you try and lift them with a Cargo Bob or Iron Mule. And they also have no guns or armor either, so good luck fighting griefers in your dodo when they're coming after you in a Raiju. Because of this, unless you have buddies to protect you while you drive, I would say just do invite-only MC sale missions. It's still worth the payout, and it's honestly not even reduced because that's the original sale values these had. You're just getting a bonus by selling in a public lobby, and so I'll just take the guaranteed sum of money. Missions with multiple cell vehicles aren't super hard as you can always fly back to the starting point with an Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow. It's just that they're one, really boring and they just drive so slow, and that's the main reason people don't grind MC businesses these days, because all that time you spend selling with MC businesses can take up your whole gameplay session, and there's much more entertaining things to do at the end of the day in GTA Online, no matter your personal preference for content. But there are still tons of reasons to buy the Biker Clubhouse and its associated businesses. The main reason is so you can extract the most out of your Nightclub, which is hands down the best source of passive income in the entire game. First, you need to own the 3 core MC businesses that I mentioned earlier, the Coca-Cola Lockup, the Cash Factory, and the Math Lab. Then you link these 3 to your Nightclub in the warehouse management section. Coca-Cola is called South American Imports, Counterfeit Cash is just called Cash Creation, and Math is called Pharmaceutical Research. Then you add in Sporting Goods and Cargo and Shipments, which are your bunker and crate business, whether it's the Hangar or CEO Cargo, and all of a sudden you're making an extra $50,000 on top of the $50,000 daily that you were already making through legal means with the Nightclub wall safe. That's $100,000 per hour, entirely passive, and when you sell your Nightclub warehouse, you just get 1 sale vehicle guaranteed. Just for the love of God, don't make the mistake of buying the Mule Custom. The Speedo and the Pounder are so much better, and if you just don't buy the Mule Custom, you will never get that as a delivery vehicle. Okay, so our journey to being the kingpin of an LSD-fueled drug empire begins with a simple phone call from Trevor's friend Ron, who asked you to visit the Ace Liquor Shop in Sandy Shores. You'll see a big R icon on your minimap. Just visit the place and you'll start the Los Santos Drug Wars questline. There are 2 parts to this. First Dose, which has 6 missions, and Last Dose, which has 5 missions. There is a reward that you unlock at the end of each part, and for part 1, it's the Acid Lab version of the Brigade 6x6, which is different from the regular Brigade that you can buy on Warstock Cash and Carry. Not only is the Acid Lab Brigade much tankier and capable of surviving over 45 RPGs to the face, but it can also accommodate a mobile drug lab in the back, which is what we're going to be using here to make money once this series of missions is over. After you finish the second part of the Drug War storyline, Last Dose, you'll unlock your other reward, which is the Ocelot Virtue. That's a $3 million electric hypercar with one of the most insane acceleration rates of any vehicle in the game, and it can fit Imani tech, which makes it very survivable against oppressor griefers. Completing all 6 First Dose missions shouldn't really take you more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and it will pay you over $600,000 when you factor in all of the first time completion bonuses. Then, right after that, do the 5 Last Dose missions for another $300,000, and you'll have more than enough money to install the $750,000 worth of Acid Lab equipment. If you don't see the install equipment option inside the Freak Shop, don't worry, you probably haven't visited one of the 3 warehouses around the map that contain the actual Acid Lab equipment. These warehouse icons show up on the map right after you finish First Dose mission number 6, Off the Rails, which is the one where you steal a Humane Labs Brigade from a train. Once you visit any of these 3 warehouses, you'll be asked to load the equipment onto a flatbed truck using a forklift, then simply drive back to the Freak Shop and you're good to go. If you have no interest in the second half of the story missions and just want to start making money ASAP, you can start running your Acid Lab right after you finish First Dose, but I would recommend waiting until you've done 10 Fooligan jobs for Dax. These missions are really easy and you get $50,000 for about 7 to 10 minutes of gameplay. There's a 48-minute cooldown between each Fooligan job, and that is a bummer, but if you start early, you can easily get all 10 done within a couple days. Trust me, it is worth it because as a beginner, there is no better business to own than the Acid Lab, and combined with the Cluck and Bell farm raid, you can become a multi-millionaire in no time with literally zero monetary investment from your end. By the way, you don't even have to visit the Freak Shop to start these Fooligan contact missions. Just call up Dax on your phone while you're in the the free roam, ask for work, and he'll give you a job right then and there. As a side note, if you want to skip the story part altogether, you can actually buy the Acid Lab business straight from Warstock by spending $1.4 million. Mutt is still going to call you up and explain how the business works, but you won't have the equipment upgrade and you won't be able to customize your Brigade 6x6 until you unlock the Freak Shop by meeting with Dax. So just do the story missions once. They're really fun and don't take much time. Now let's talk about the stuff you guys are here for. Money making with the Acid Lab. How much profit can you make per hour? How do resupplies work? Does this business get rated? I'm going to be answering all of these questions, starting with profitability first. And I'll be breaking this down into two sections, one without equipment upgrades and one with equipment upgrades, to demonstrate just how massive of a difference the simple $250,000 upgrade can make. The section of this video involves some number crunching, but if you just want to see the results, you can feel free to skip ahead to this timestamp. Without the equipment upgrade, your Acid Lab will require 3.2 resupplies, each costing $60,000, so you'll spend $192,000 on supplies alone, and you'll make $237,600 in return with a full batch of product. Mind you, this is going to take 6 hours since you don't have the upgraded equipment, which is an eternity, and it means you can spend a couple days filling up your Acid Lab. There is a way to speed up your production, and it's through a feature called Production Boost. If you step back into the back of your Acid Lab where Mutt is working, you'll see this little table here with some weird looking chemical bottles, and when you interact with it, you'll be able to speed up your production significantly. It can only be used once per day, so 24 real life hours, but it will bring down the time required to produce a full batch of product from 6 hours to 4 hours and 30 minutes. Let's run the numbers real quick. 237,000 minus the 192,000 you spent on resupplies means we're making a profit of $45,600 over 6 hours. That's just $7,600 per hour, which is pretty pathetic. Even with the production boost, you're making only $10,000 per hour, and I think you can make more by doing taxi work. And yeah, you could steal resupplies, but you'll need to do multiple resupply missions to fill up a single bar of supplies, and that'll take even more of your time. Hours that you could be spending on more profitable ventures like playing the Cluck and Bell Farm raid, Cayo Perico, or even watching paint dry. Basically, what I'm saying here is do not run the Acid Lab without equipment upgrades. It's not worth it. But now let's see how we fare once we spend the $250K on equipment upgrades. Production time goes down to just 4 hours unassisted and 3 hours with the production boost enabled. Product value goes up from $237,600 to a whopping $335,200. That's a 41% increase in sale value. But wait, there's more, because now we only need 1.6 resupplies rather than 3.2, a 50% reduction in our supply costs. And here's a little secret for you. If you open up your interaction menu, go to service vehicles, select Acid Lab, and scroll down a bit, you'll see another option titled product name. If you name your product, doesn't matter which one you choose, as long as it's not default, you will get a 5% increase to every sale value. That brings our full stock up from $335,200 to $351,960. Running that math once again, we're now making $255,960 in net profit every 4 hours, which comes out to $64,000 per hour. Not bad, right? And with the production speed boost activated, our profit rate goes up even further to $85,000 per hour. For all you guys who skipped ahead for the results, here you go. With an upgraded Acid Lab, you can make up to $85,000 per hour with production boost activated and $64,000 without the boost. I already mentioned why stealing supplies is a waste of time, so let's talk about buying, how and where to buy. Unlike your MC businesses or bunker, the Acid Lab doesn't actually require you to be inside of the business to purchase resupplies, nor do you need a master control terminal. Instead, this is what you do. Open up your phone, scroll down to where it says Mutt in your contacts, call him, and select buy supplies. If it's a full resupply, it'll cost you $60,000. And again, you only need 1.6 of these to fill up your entire storage with product. So 2 calls over 3 hours and you're good to go. Pretty easy, right? You can also summon the Acid Lab to your location and manually walk up to Mutt and select buy supplies if you want, but it's unnecessary unless you're trying to activate the production boost, for which you will need to be inside of the vehicle for it. You can't activate production boost over the phone. And here's a handy little spreadsheet summarizing all the Acid Lab profitability details on the GTA Online subreddit from a user called They Call Me Sem, so feel free to pause and take a look. With profitability and resupplying handled, let's talk about selling now. How do you sell your Acid Lab product? Can the business be rated like MC and CEO businesses? Thankfully, no, the Acid Lab cannot be rated. It's 100% raid proof, and in order to sell your product, all you have to do is summon your Brigade from the service vehicle menu, then walk inside and you'll see this stash of jars on the right hand side. Walk up to it and you'll be able to start a sell mission. The coolest thing about the Acid Lab, other than its completely hands-free management, is the fact that you only get one sale vehicle every single time, a Manchez Scout C, which is an off-roading beast, so you'll have no trouble jumping across roads or riding over rocky hills as you race across the map to make your acid deliveries. There are 3 types of sell missions: Paperboy, Stash, and Police Sting. In Paperboy, you have to make 10 drop-offs by throwing newspaper packages filled with LSD into tiny collection baskets. In Stash, you get 5 drop-offs, and you'll have to dismount your bike and select one of 3 possible stash points to hide your product in while trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. And finally, there's the best kind of sell mission you can get, which is Police Sting. You'll know that you've got Police Sting when you see a single drop point on the map, and the game will always ask you to drive up onto the roof level of a multi-story parking garage. Here, there are a bunch of cops waiting for you behind cover, and there's going to be one observer just standing outside, pretending to be busy on his phone. If you dismount your bike and try to stash the acid, you'll be surrounded immediately and shot from all sides. Instead, what you can do when you get the Police Sting mission is just get to the parking garage, shoot any number of the police vehicles, you'll get your wanted level instantly, drive away from the building, lose the cops, and that should be extremely easy since you're driving a very agile off-road bike. Then Mutt's going to give you a backup location, and all you have to do is drive into the back of a van and walk away to complete the delivery. Just one drop off, and this mission can mostly be done in under 4 minutes. In fact, most Acid Lab sales rarely take more than 10 to 12 minutes anyway, even on those longer variants. And if you're feeling adventurous, you're always going to have that 50% potential high demand bonus if you sell in a packed public lobby. If you get the Police Sting mission, you can easily activate Ghost Org and protect yourself throughout most of the mission. If you get Paperboy, things become a little bit trickier as you still need to make 10 separate drop-offs, but still with a single sale vehicle, it's more than feasible. And that's honestly it for the business side of the Acid Lab. There isn't really much else to cover. However, the Brigade 6x6 is also something you want to take into consideration while grinding this business. If you didn't already know, it's the second tankiest vehicle in the entire game in terms of explosive resistance, just behind the MOC. You can upgrade it with heavy armor in the Freak Shop, and you can also install a heavy ram in the front if you want to drive around Phantom Wedge style, flipping vehicles all over the place. The Brigade is also an easy way to get rid of cops, as you can just step into the back and step out to completely reset your wanted level, same as any other service vehicle, and it can also equip all kinds of proximity mines, from EMP mines to sticky mines, which makes it a pain to chase down for griefers and cars pursuing you. Overall, I'd say the Los Santos Drug Wars DLC is one of the finest that Rockstar has ever added to GTA Online. Not only are you getting an amazing business that can be managed remotely and makes excellent money, but you're also getting an amazing vehicle, or rather 2 amazing vehicles, because once you finish Lastos, remember, you've got Dr. Isaiah Friedlander's Ocelot Virtue waiting for you. And all of this is free as long as you put in the time to complete a few story missions. So get out there, do the Drug Wars missions, unlock your free overpowered business, and make loads of cash. And for those of you who have yet to own a bunker, let me explain which ones are actually worth buying. See this guy right here? That's Chumash, and it's often regarded as the best value for money option, coming in at just $1.6 million. Los Santos is only a couple minutes away if you take the nearby freeway, and Fort Zancudo is just up north, so if you've got a hangar over there, you can easily hop between your Chumash bunker and Zancudo hangar. But Chumash isn't actually the best overall bunker, it's just the best value for money. This right here is the best bunker location, period, and it's called Farmhouse. Unfortunately, it's also the most expensive location, and it will cost you close to $2.4 million, but in return, you get the most centrally located bunker in the entire map, and from here, you can go anywhere you want really fast, so deliveries will be an absolute piece of cake. Now, once you have your bunker, you just need to do a quick setup mission for things to get up and running, and once this is over, you're ready to make hundreds of millions of dollars. But first, you need to upgrade your staff and equipment, because without these upgrades, your supplies will be consumed faster and your staff will generate less product per resupply, which means significantly lower profit margins. So here's how it works. Equipment upgrades make your bunker more efficient, and these will generate more product per unit of resupplies, while staff upgrades improve your production speed so you can process your supplies faster. If you have both, you'll increase the amount of product you generate and the speed at which you generate it. Without the staff and equipment upgrades, you're looking at 50% less product when normalized for time compared to having all those upgrades. And remember that it will also require more resupplies to get there, which means the only way to make profit with an unupgraded bunker is through stealing. The exact math is in this chart right here, and you can pause to take a look at it if you want, but understand that the bunker is simply not worth it without these 2 upgrades. An equipment upgrade will cost you $1.1 million, and the staff upgrade requires a further $600,000 investment, so you're spending $1.7 million on top of whatever you paid for your bunker. Then there's also the security upgrade, which reduces the chances of being raided. Raids can only happen once you get past a certain stock level, and these put a complete stop to your production. Then if you don't intervene within the given time limit, they'll also destroy all of your products, so it can be very annoying when your bunker gets raided and you lose $1 million worth of stock. But at least for now, the security upgrade is sort of quote-unquote optional, so if you can't afford it, don't worry, because I'll give you a tip later in the video that will help you prevent your bunker from being raided entirely. However, the equipment and staff upgrade are not negotiable at all, so price those in before you decide to purchase your bunker. Just add $1.7 million to the cost of whichever location you're going for, and you're good to go right there. Another key item you should buy with your bunker is the personal quarters, which cost $265,000 and allows you to fast travel straight to your bunker anytime you switch lobbies. If you're a PvE grinder and you play invite only most of the time, this is a must-have for the business. Before you ever obtain a master control terminal, the fast travel to each business is your best way of buying resupplies for your bunker and any other business for that matter, so get that personal quarters ASAP. Alright, with the location and upgrades out of the way, it's finally time for us to do what all of you came here for, and that's making millions of dollars in profit with this business. And it's very simple. Just buy supplies, wait for supplies to turn into product, and finally, sell that product. You can also steal supplies if you want, but that's overall an extremely poor way to use your time in GTA Online, and it's the same case with any other business. Each supply mission takes up around 6 minutes of time, and on your way back, you're driving this really slow vehicle, which can easily be blown up by a little Timmy on his oppressor if you're playing in a public lobby. And to make matters worse, depending on the type of supply mission that you get, sometimes you'll only fill up the supplies bar 20% of the way, so it can take up to 5 total resupply missions or over half an hour to fill up that entire bar. And to me and most other players, I would say, half an hour of time wasted on that is worth way more than $75,000, because you could be doing security contracts for your agency, vehicle deliveries for your auto shop, salvage yard robberies, I mean heck, literally anything else that isn't a simple bunker resupply mission. The Union Depository contract takes you just 20 minutes and it pays out $270,000 in pure profit. Throw in a payphone hit for the remaining 10 minutes and you're making over $210,000 for the amount of time it took you to fill up 1 bar of supplies in your bunker. If you don't have the staff or equipment upgrades, I can see why you'd steal supplies, but then again, what's the point of operating a bunker without staff and equipment upgrades? It's literally a time sink and you're losing money by not doing other more profitable activities. So the point here is just spend the $75K, wait 10 minutes and you'll get a full resupply. This will be converted into product over the next 2 hours and 20 minutes, because that's how long a fully upgraded bunker takes to generate product from a bar of supplies that you purchase. And if you want to fill your bunker up all the way to the max, you need 5 resupplies and 11 hours and 40 minutes of your time for all that to be converted into bunker product. And in the end, with a full bunker, you'll have exactly $1,050,000 worth of product to sell if you go with the long distance sell option over local, depending on whichever location your bunker is in, whether it's up north or in the city. And that's because long distance sells pay an additional 50%. And remember, this is all in an invite only lobby. You can make a total of $1.575 million if you sell in a packed lobby with 20 other players or more. But that's quite risky, as the mere sight of a bunker sell vehicle on the map sends griefers in the lobby straight to DEFCON 5, and they'll home in on your supple butt cheeks like a shark who smells blood in the water. Unfortunately, most of the bunker delivery vehicles aren't even equipped to deal with griefers, and your little weapon stash will be blown sky high before you get your first peso in your bank account. That's why I personally like to fill up just 1/5 of my product bar, which is exactly 1 resupply, and then I sell it solo with just 1 vehicle. Or of course you can go into a public lobby for that since it's just 1 vehicle, but overall, if you do a single resupply and then sell that, you get 20 units of product, which can be held in just 1 vehicle. The bunker can hold up to 100 units of product, so 5 resupplies, but anything above 20 units of product will require multiple vehicles, so keep that in mind. The reason I also sell 1 is because that also stays right on pace and in sync when I sell my acid lab, so it's perfect. I do both sell missions back to back every single day. Now, there are 4 types of sell missions for the bunker, and the worst one by far is the one where you get 4 Dune FAVs, and the game asks you to do multiple drops with each FAV while fighting off Merryweather mercenaries who swarm you from all directions as soon as you make the drop. This is impossible to do solo, and if you get this mission, just quit and find a new lobby and run the sell mission again. The monster truck sell mission is going to be better here, as you can go off-road and the only NPCs chasing you are these 2 choppers, and there's a neat trick that you can do to turn them harmless, and all you really have to do for that is just step outside, take aim with your sniper rifle or any other weapon for that matter, and kill the gunners on both choppers. Then you can drive around freely without either chopper constantly shooting at you. If you destroy them, they'll simply respawn and it's back to square one, but if you just kill the gunners, the choppers are rendered harmless and they'll only be able to watch you while you drive around with your sell vehicle. My personal favorite though is going to be the Phantom Wedge cell mission, followed closely by the Insurgent mission. The Phantom Wedge mission has cops tailing you along the way, but it's a fixed 3-star wanted level, and your Phantom Wedge is given extra explosive resistance for this specific mission, so it can tank up to 2 explosions, and that means you can easily ram cop cars out of the way and just simply drive to your drop-off point. From there, you just simply fly back with a Sparrow helicopter or your Buzzard or your Oppressor and do it a second time to complete the delivery solo. With the Insurgent mission, you get 3 vehicles, and there are 2 variants to this mission. In the first one, you'll be asked to make 5 separate drop-offs with each Insurgent, and you'll also have to fight Merryweather mercenaries at each drop-off. This one is a complete waste of time if you're solo, so as soon as you get this variant of the mission and you see more than 3 drops at the bottom of your screen, quit into a new lobby. You'll lose a tiny amount of product, but you're gonna get a better cell mission next time. So avoid the Dune FAV one and avoid this Merryweather mission. Next though, there's a chance you'll get the Insurgent cell mission where all you have to do is simply drive each of the 3 Insurgents to a separate solo delivery point. And this is one of the easiest of them all, as you have no cops, no mercenaries, none of that garbage. It's just you driving the trucks as fast as you can. And to make things easier, if you get the Phantom Wedge or Insurgent mission, you can simply call in your Iron Mule or Cargo Bob and hook up the vehicles, then fly to the delivery point. If you're doing this in a public lobby solo, it's actually safer and quicker to fly there instead of driving, and for some extra protection, you can always activate Ghost Org for $12,000 from your CEO menu. GTA members get Ghost Org for free, so there's no reason not to use it because you'll be making some extra cash. Now, you can do full bunker cell missions solo just by using the Sparrow to fly back, but personally, I like to do things a little bit differently. I feel the most efficient, most low-risk way to make profit with the bunker is by buying private and selling in public lobbies. And for this, if I want to do it, I'll start with an empty bar of product, purchase exactly 1 resupply for $75,000, whether it's through my Terabytes Master Control Terminal or the bunker laptop itself, and then I'll do other types of content for the next 2 hours and 20 minutes, because that's how long it takes for a full bar of resupply to be turned into product. I'll do some auto shop missions, a Dr. Dre VIP contract, some money laundering missions, FIB files, whatever. You get the idea, play what you want. Then once my bunker is full, I'll simply set it as my spawn point and switch to a public lobby. After I spawn in, I know I'm only getting 1 sale vehicle since I only have 20 units of product, and that way I'll start a long distance sell mission to Los Santos, and now I stand to make $210,000 just from the base payout. But wait, there's more, because remember, I'm in a full public lobby. That means I'll make an additional $105,000, bringing the total up to $315,000. I only spent $75,000 on supplies, so I'm getting $240,000 in net profit over a period of 2 hours and 20 minutes, which means I'm making exactly $102,000 per hour for doing next to nothing besides the sale mission. Not bad, right? And even if some griefer ends up finding me, which already is unlikely because I can just use Ghost Org and I only have 1 vehicle, that's what makes it really good, because he's only going to blow up $210,000 worth of product instead of a full 1 million you waited almost 12 hours to sell. And this is also how I recommend you guys do your sell missions too if you're not going to sell in invite-only sessions. What's neat about this approach is that I can also sync it with my Acid Lab sell missions like I was talking about, because with production boost activated, the Acid Lab does a full turnover in just 3 hours. So right after I sell my bunker, I can then make another $350,000 with my Acid Lab, and in both cases here, I only get 1 sale vehicle. Also, let's not forget the ammunition deliveries, which are available every 48 minutes and pay you $50,000 per delivery. With these, your bunker can potentially make up to $200,000 every single hour if you're doing the main sell in public lobbies, and that's just insane because it's literally twice what the Nightclub makes per hour, and everyone loves the Nightclub for its money per hour. Of course, you can sell the Nightclub in public lobbies all the time, but I'm using it as a point of reference here to show you guys just how awesome the bunker is at making money if you plan some things out beforehand. And before I reach the end of the video, let me talk to you about research real quick. If you don't already know, the bunker is the only place in the game where you can research attachments and special ammo types for your Mark II weapons, and these tech upgrades will completely transform the way you fight enemies in this game. You want to punch straight through bullet-resistant windows with 1 shot? FMJ rounds. Want to send oppressor kitties crying home to their mama? Explosive sniper rounds. Want to wreak havoc on NPCs and watch them flail around in horror as they turn crispier than a bucket of KFC? Incendiary rounds. The only issue with research is that it's very grindy and structured, almost like a mobile game where you click on an upgrade and wait several hours for it to complete. And also, if you want a specific upgrade and nothing else, you won't be able to just select it, as research assignments are completely randomized, and half the time you'll just get some lame camo paint instead of the thing you actually want, like for example, heavy barrels or holographic sights. The good news is there's a way to fast track research, and by fast track, I mean paying $225,000 so you can immediately skip the waiting period. For this, just buy a bar of supplies, wait 3 minutes for the research bar to just barely start progressing, and then you go to the computer and select fast track research. You'll need about $14 million to unlock every single item this way, and so that's going to be a choice that you'll have to make on whether or not the research items are worth it for you. For me personally, on all my accounts and all my characters I've ever created, I buy all the research. I don't bother waiting because I just want to obtain everything. And $14 million honestly isn't that hard to come by when you have a bunch of businesses. Let's talk about which salvage yard that you should actually buy. And it's this one, in Strawberry. This is the most centrally located salvage yard in the game, and if you look closely up the map, it's also right next to your hands-on car wash and the Strawberry Auto Shop. All three of which are arranged in a nice little triangle right here, and you can drive between these businesses in a mere matter of seconds. Next, let's talk about upgrades for your salvage yard. I recommend these two as mandatory upgrades. First, a tow truck, which you obviously need if you want to do those boring yet highly lucrative tow missions. And secondly, you need a staff upgrade, because without this, your vehicles will take twice as long to be salvaged and you'll cut your passive income per hour by half. So go ahead and spend that $625,000 on it. I assure you, it is well worth it in the long run. If you want to save some money, you can also go with the beater tow truck, which costs $650,000, but if you can spare that extra $350,000, I do recommend purchasing the brand new one, as not only does it look better and it's less of an eyesore, but in some unique instances, you'll also find out that it goes slightly faster. Will it actually speed up your vehicle recovery times though? Not particularly, as the biggest limitation on your tow truck jobs isn't the speed of the tow truck itself, rather it's the awful vehicle spawns that you get, which can sometimes be 3 or even unfortunately 4 miles away, and I will show you a little trick to get around that later in the video, but for now, you can get either tow truck. It really won't make that big of a difference. Alright, now let's get to the main course of this guide here, which is passive money making with your salvage yard. How much can you make per hour? How does that hidden popularity meter work? All of that good stuff. And I'm gonna start out with the big juicy details up front. $84,000 to $104,000. That's how much you can make with your salvage yard every single in-game day, or 48 real-life minutes. Sounds impressive, right? I mean, that's almost as much as a nightclub makes with the warehouse income included. And here's how you do it. First, you're gonna get inside that tow truck you purchased. It's parked right next to the shop entrance over here. Then you launch a tow truck mission. These have a cooldown of 2 minutes. They used to be 0, but Rockstar hates us, so they nerfed a business that didn't really need to be nerfed. Anyways, you get inside and you launch a mission, which will generate a randomized vehicle spawn as well as an associated vehicle value. The spawn can be as close as half a mile away from your shop in a parking lot within downtown Los Santos, or it can be 5 miles away up in the middle of some random farm in Sandy Shores. If you get a location that's within about 2 to 2.5 miles from your shop, drive there, pick up the vehicle, and drive it back. Just pay attention while you're taking turns or going over bumps with the car attached to your crane arm, because sometimes it will flip over and you'll have to reattach the cable to tow it back, and that's going to waste some time. If the vehicle is over 3 miles away though, there's a little trick you can use to get there faster. Simply call in your cargo bob or iron mule, hook up the tow truck to the chopper, and fly there. Then attach your vehicle to the truck as you normally would and drive back. This saves you a bit of time if the target is over 3 miles away. If it's any less than that, the extra time that you spend summoning your helicopter and hooking it up onto the truck just isn't worth it, so make your choice based on that. Alternatively, and what I prefer to do in most cases if I have a tow truck location that's too far away and I also don't want to deal with Rockstar's crappy RNG, you can also just choose to throw a couple of sticky bombs on your truck and blow it up to reset the mission, but this also means encountering that 2-minute cooldown, same as if you just switch session. Each vehicle you tow back to your shop will pay anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000. Payment is sent to your account after a vehicle has been processed, and you can process 2 cars at the same time. And if you bought that staff upgrade we talked about earlier, these vehicles will be processed in 48 minutes rather than 96 minutes. Now, let's talk about that hidden popularity meter, which determines how much income your office safe makes per in-game day. And it works very similarly to the nightclub. The higher your popularity, the more passive income you make. And if you don't maintain it, your income will drop and you'll get less money at the end of each in-game day. Only in the case of the salvage yard, there's no handy popularity meter, and the game doesn't even tell you that something like this exists. You have to figure it out yourself through trial and error. Fortunately for you, I did the math, so you don't have to. And here's how it works. There are 100 popularity quote-unquote levels in total, and with each tow job that you do, you gain 25 levels, which means once you've done 4 tow truck jobs in total, you've got the max popularity level of 100. You'll make the max passive income as well of $24,000 per 48 minutes. Also, you don't have to do all 4 at the same time. Once you have max popularity, it takes 96 full real-life minutes for it to drop back down by 25 levels. So if you haven't done a tow job for 2 in-game days, your max income will go from $24,000 to $19,200. Then if you wait another 96 minutes, it will go down further to $12,000. And finally, at the lowest level, it's reduced to practically nothing, so I recommend doing 4 tow truck jobs as soon as you get your brand new salvage yard, then keep it on quote-unquote maintenance mode, which is just 1 tow truck job every 96 real-life minutes if you just want that $24,000 worth of passive income. But here's how you can maximize it. You see, the salvage yard can process 2 vehicles simultaneously. So what you should do right after you log in for the day is do 1 tow truck mission, then wait the 2 minutes and go do another. Both of these can be done within 6 to 8 minutes total. That's $60,000 to $80,000 right there. And then, since you already have max popularity, you also get that $24,000 in your wall safe, which means you've now made a combined $84,000 to $104,000 just by driving a truck around for a couple of minutes. Then, right before logging off, do 2 more tow truck jobs. These vehicles will be processed by your salvage yard staff even if you're offline, so as soon as you log back in the next day to play, you'll see that 80 grand pop up on the left side of your screen. So every GTA Online session, you're making nearly $200,000 for doing practically nothing. That's close to $1.4 million a week, or over $9 million a month in semi-passive income. And here's another tip. Anytime you get the cops on you while doing a tow truck mission, simply summon your Terabyte or Acid Lab, walk into the back, and walk back out to remove the wanted level immediately. This trick also works with the MOC or Avenger. Alright, with all the passive stuff wrapped up, let's talk about the vehicle robberies, which are the much more interesting way to make money, even though they actually pay a lot less long term because you only get 3 heists at a time, and these are also on a weekly rotation. Each one of these robberies or mini heists gives you a vehicle to steal, and there are 3 tiers of them. Low-end vehicles, which give you around $250,000 to $270,000, medium-end vehicles, which pay $340,000 to $350,000, and finally, we've got the top tier high-end vehicles, which have a resale value of $390,000 to over $400,000. In total, you're making approximately $1 million just by doing these 3 mini heists each week. And remember, always sell the car. Never salvage it. Selling it only takes a couple of minutes and it pays way more money. Plus, you can do it in an invite-only session, which removes practically all the risk to you. Occasionally, Rockstar will allow you to claim a stolen car of these for just $20,000, although this only happens a couple times a year, and it's been ages since we were last able to claim a vehicle. Typically, we see them for Christmas, 4th of July, and sometimes in between. But when speaking about these vehicle robberies, there are 5 of them in total, and you get 3 at a time. Some are worse than the others, but overall, I really do like all 5 robberies, and once you get acquainted with all of the mission objectives and enemy spawn points, you can comfortably do each of these in under 30 minutes. Even the harder ones like the McToney robbery or even the Gangbanger robbery. You can also use your Oppressor Mark II for the prep missions, which makes things a whole lot easier, and while these mini heists deserve their own separate video, I've got a few tips that'll help you complete them a lot more easily. First, we've got the Gangbanger robbery, and in the finale for this one, what you should do before you throw all of those BZ gas containers into the ventilation system is you should summon your Sparrow and park it right next to the exit. This way, once you finally get the prompt to escape with King Tiny, you can simply hop in, pray to God that his AI doesn't suck, and fly straight to LSIA. Then, for the Duggan robbery, if you get all 3 bonus objectives, you can make an extra $50,000, and they're all really simple. Get over 15 headshots, disable the target vehicle on your first try, and reach House Shop within 1 minute. Duggan is also one of my favorite heists because of how easy it is, both for the setups and for the finale, and there was also this really cool skip where if you had the La Puerta salvage yard, you could simply dial 911 and drive into it with the stolen vehicle. And what that would do is then teleport you straight to House Shop. I don't know if it still works today or if Rockstar has patched it, but I do suggest trying it out if you have that La Puerta shop location. Then for the cargo ship robbery, in the finale there's an easy way to do the stealth challenge, and for this all you have to do is bring your Oppressor Mark II, hop into the boat to get the GPS coordinates, then back on your Oppressor and fly over the ship. Right over the objective, just parachute down and glide to the yellow marker. You'll complete the stealth directive as long as you reach the bridge, and even if you do get detected afterwards, you'll still get the bonus. For the podium robbery, once all the lights go out, just look at your minimap and follow this path that I'm showing you to advance undetected. Right, left, right, right. And then, once more over here, you'll find the hatch. If you stay under the cameras, outside of the blue vision cone, you will not be detected. Then, right as the door opens, send an RPG into the other room to clear out some of the enemies, and that'll make your escape way easier. Make sure to take all of them out before getting into your car so you can complete one of the bonus objectives, which is escaping within 1 minute. And then finally for the McToney robbery, which is arguably the hardest one, I don't really have much to say other than play the mission in first person and keep your head on a swivel. There are bad guys at every corner, so the assault shotgun will definitely come in handy here, especially if you want to dispatch them fast. And because the head of security can spawn in one of 3 random spots, the best thing you can do is memorize each location and go through them in order. Also, he has like 20 billion HP and does a lot of damage back to you, so the best way to deal with him is once you've spotted him, back off into a corner, pull out your grenade launcher, and bounce some nades at him, which will then set him on fire. And while he's running around all ablaze, you can end his suffering by putting a few rounds through his head. Then for the second phase of the finale, once you're in the cop chase, the best way to lose them is by following these railway tracks and heading into this tunnel that's right next to the sawmill up north. Then wait in there until you lose your wanted level and drive back to the salvage yard. CEO Cargo is one of the most profitable businesses in all of GTA Online, and it's only become better over the years. But first things first, we're gonna need ourselves a CEO office, because without the CEO computer, we cannot access the SecuraServe network, which is where all of the warehouses are sold. You cannot directly buy a special cargo warehouse on Mazebank foreclosures like you can do with other businesses, so you need a CEO office first, and these can be found on the Dynasty 8 Executive Real Estate website, the same place where you buy the agency. As for which CEO office location you should get, cheaper is probably better. I highly recommend these two, either Mazebank West or the Arcadia Center. Lombank's got a great view and all, but it's a bit too overpriced in my opinion, and while Mazebank Tower is the ultimate flex, it's also not that far away from Arcadius, so Arcadius, despite being the second cheapest option, is actually the best value for your money since it's pretty centrally located. And once we start doing those crate sourcing missions, you'll see why it's such a benefit to have a centrally located office building. By the way, I also recommend having an Oppressor Mark II or at least a Sparrow helicopter or even a buzzer before you start your crate grind, because any kind of fast flying vehicle with homing missiles is going to make a huge difference in the amount of time it'll take you to source these crates. And if you just have an armored Kuruma or even a Duke of Death right now, maybe hold off on the warehouse business and grind some more Cluckenbell farm raids first, because CEO warehouses are expensive. Like $3 million each kind of expensive. And I'll say it right now, unless you have at least $6 to $7 million in disposable income, don't even think about starting a warehouse grind, because unless you have 2 or more large warehouses, the grind will be quite inefficient at first. Technically, you can make do with just one warehouse if you do other activities like headhunter CEO work, or even payphone hits to pad out the cooldown, literally any other content to pass the time, but ideally, you'll want 2 or more large warehouses that are in close proximity to each other so you can source crates for one while the other is on cooldown. Having a terabyte is also a huge bonus here, because you can park it in between both warehouses, zip back and forth to it on your Oppressor Mark II as soon as you exit one warehouse, and start a new mission. Okay, so these are the large warehouses that I recommend buying. First, you've got wholesale furniture over here, which costs $1.9 million, and right beneath that, we've got Cypress Warehouse, which is literally just 1 block away. I'd start with these two first, and then work my way up to the other large warehouses like Logistics Depot, as well as the Darnell Bros warehouse. Also, if you pay close attention here, you'll notice that the 4 large warehouses I just mentioned are situated almost perfectly along this one big line, top to bottom, and you'll see why that's useful later in the video. And speaking of size here, large warehouses are the only ones worth getting for 2 major reasons. First, they encourage you to only do 1 big sell mission at the end of the month instead of doing 2 or 3 sell missions that are spread out over the course of weeks. Small warehouses hold 16 crates, medium warehouses hold 42. Meanwhile, large warehouses hold a whopping 111 crates, which makes them a lot more efficient from a profit versus time perspective. The second reason to get large warehouses is that the value of each individual crate that you sell goes up based on volume. So for example, if you're only selling 1 crate, it's worth $10,000. If you sell 15 to 19 crates at a time, which is basically one small warehouse full of crates, you get $15,000 per crate, but if you sell 111 crates all at the same time in one sale mission, which is what a large warehouse holds, you get $20,000 per crate. Literally double what you get from selling one crate, and 33% more cash per crate compared to selling a small warehouse. So when you look at the big picture, it makes no sense to get a small warehouse. Remember, you can only have 5 warehouses total, and I'd much rather have 2 large warehouses than 5 small ones. Okay, now that we've talked about size, let's talk about the best way to use it. How do you source your crates? How many crates do you source at a time? What about special item drops? How rare are those? I'll answer all of these questions, starting with how to source your crates. So the way I like to do this is I start in an invite-only lobby with my CEO office as the spawn point. This way, I don't have to deal with griefers blowing up my cargo as I'm flying back to the warehouse, and I also start in a pretty central position, which makes the trips back and forth a whole lot quicker whenever the game gives me a randomized crate mission. Sometimes you'll get a location that's close to your warehouse, sometimes you won't. It's just better to start in the middle of the map, and that's why the Arcadius Business Center is so good, because it's right in the middle of the city. Alternatively, if you don't want to switch lobbies after every source, bring out your terabyte and park it sort of midway between your various warehouses. And no, you don't need the master control terminal to start crate theft missions. You can do those from the regular terabyte command center. Then let's talk about the actual missions themselves. The game gives you one of exactly 2 types. In type A, you go around sourcing 3 individual crates from 3 separate locations that are usually next to each other. Type B, all 3 crates are packed inside a vehicle and you have to drive this vehicle back to the warehouse. Obviously, I'm going to prefer type B as it's a lot less time consuming. Unfortunately, we can't just hook up a vehicle to our Iron Mule or Cargo Bob, but the mission is still a whole lot faster than making 3 separate trips on your Oppressor or Sparrow or even Buzzard. And the game will randomly give you one of either mission. So sometimes you'll get a solo vehicle, sometimes you'll have to make 3 trips back and forth between the warehouse and the drop locations. And here's how to know which mission type you've got right after your assistant calls you. End the call, bring up your map. If you see the warehouse blip on the map, it means you're about to get 3 loose crates once you arrive at the GPS coordinates. If you don't see a warehouse blip, it means you're about to get a single vehicle, which is the best type of mission to be grinding. I know some people will straight up eat the $18,000 loss and just jump into a new session when they see that warehouse icon pop up because they'd rather lose that money than do 3 individual trips to collect their crates, but I don't think we have to go that extreme. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion, as I rarely grind crates anyway, but if you're serious about grinding these to the best of your ability, that's a method worth considering for time. You'll lose some money, sure, but the long-term gains in terms of time saved might outweigh the cost for you. And if you're really serious here, I've got a little glitch that's been around for a few years now, and this glitch lets you do the 3 crate source in about half the time. This only works when you get 3 loose crates and is useless for the single vehicle source missions. But that's exactly where we need to time save, because making 3 flights to and from the warehouse will eat into your sanity pretty fast and burn you out. So here's how you do this glitch. First, before you even start a crate source mission, bring up either Simeon or Lester on your cell phone and request the job. Then go for the 3 crate source, as I've only tested this glitch with the 3 crate source and I'm not sure if it works with the others. Besides, there's no point sourcing 1 or 2 crates at a time unless you're doing it specifically for RP, so always get 3 crates. Then with Simeon's job offer on your phone, pull out your Oppressor or Sparrow or whatever and fly to the location. Then walk into the middle of a crate, pick it up, then walk to the second crate, and while standing in the middle of that one, open your phone and accept the job. Then immediately back out of the job. You'll know you've successfully initiated the glitch when the 2 boxes appear like this in parallel right next to each other. Then place a manual waypoint on your location, pick up the 3rd box, and fly back to your warehouse with your phone open. Right as you enter the yellow circle, accept the job and back out once again. Then you know the second stage of the glitch has been activated when you can't see the 2 remaining crates on your map. You also won't be able to use your personal vehicle that you just flew in with, but that's no issue. Simply call a different one or respawn it. Then fly back to the manual waypoint you set earlier and accelerate your Oppressor right through the 2 crates, picking up both at the same time. The game will then warp you back into your warehouse, and for the final crate, just walk outside and pick it up to complete the source mission. This takes about half the time it normally would to source 3 separate crates, and it will significantly cut down time on your grind, so try it out and let me know if this glitch is still working. And for a final tip here, if you don't want the 2 worst crate source missions in the game, which were added with the Criminal Enterprises update, start your source missions from the terabyte. With the terabyte, you'll only get the OG source missions and you'll skip out on those god-awful underwater source missions as well as the auto shop mission, both of which can take 20 minutes or more. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, don't forget to layer your cooldowns. So for example, if you source one warehouse, it will go on a 5-minute cooldown, but that only applies to the warehouse that you just used. So all of the other warehouses are still available and you can do a new source mission while the first warehouse comes off cooldown. Now, let me talk to you about a technique that I use myself to source crates without doing any actual work myself. First, I spawn on my CEO office and do a quick export mixed goods mission for $50,000. Takes about 3 minutes, and that cash I get is very important, because what I do with it is I fly to all 5 of my warehouses and I assign all 5 technicians inside of there to bring me crates. Of course, it's much faster if the warehouses are all right next to each other, and this is where it helps to have chosen good locations like we talked about earlier on in the video. It costs $7,500 per technician, so $37,500 in total, and they reset every 48 minutes, so you can send them out again at the end of that time. Technicians most of the time will bring you 1 or 2 crates, but occasionally they might bring in a 3rd crate as well, and there's the even rarer chance that they'll return with a special item. This has a 1 in 100 or about 1% chance of happening. Anyways, I spend about 5 minutes assigning my techs, and then I go do whatever other content I want. Contact missions, adversary modes, heists, other businesses, etc., whatever you want to do. Then at the end of my gameplay session, I pop back in, do another export mixed goods, and assign all 5 technicians to crate hunting before I log off. You see, these guys even work while you're offline, so the next time you get into the game, you'll be notified on who acquired what as soon as you log in, and then you can repeat the cycle. This way, you're essentially filling up all warehouses for quote-unquote free because you get the money from the exporting mixed goods jobs with a slight profit, and you can still sell a full warehouse for over $2.2 million in profit. The only downside is, depending on how much you actually play the game and use the technicians, it can take you 1 or 2 months to fill up all 5 of your large warehouses this way, but it's really good for making money with the crate business when you otherwise wouldn't do any manual crate sourcing and grinding yourself. That's what I do nowadays. Now, let's talk about selling here. Obviously, you should only sell when your warehouse is 100% full, as that will give you the maximum profit per crate. But what about public versus private? I usually do my sells in private lobbies if I have multiple full warehouses, but if you have a crew or if you're in a Discord group, you can do public sell missions, as that will give you up to a 50% boost on your crate value, taking your total sale value per large warehouse from $2.2 million all the way up to $3.3 million. And during 2 times bonus weeks, each warehouse is worth $6.6 million in a packed lobby. Sell all 5, and that's $33 million in 1 single day. Quite frankly here, there's no other activity in GTA 5 Online that delivers quite the same level of dopamine hits you get from watching your GTA bank balance go up by over $30 million in just 1 hour. And Rockstar usually does 2 times bonuses for CEO cargo once, maybe twice a year if we're lucky at this point, so you can make $60 million in 2 days if you sell public with that high demand bonus. Also, the only vehicle upgrade you need if you sell private is the tugboat speed upgrade. Forget about armor unless you're selling in public lobbies, and for the air cell where you randomly get enemy Valkyrie NPCs, if you're solo, fly to each checkpoint and clear the area with your Sparrow or Raiju before you fly in with a Titan. Otherwise, you're gonna lose all your cargo. Finally, let's talk about special items. The game actually has a very specific checklist that it follows to see if you're eligible for special items. First, as soon as you spawn into a session, it will assign you a contraband type, which is randomized. Special items like ornamental eggs, rare hides, and golden miniguns only spawn across 6 specific contraband categories, so if you don't have one of those assigned, you won't be eligible in that session. Then the game also checks to see that you've done at least 20 source missions, and if you pass that check, it will also scan for duplicate special items. If you pass all 3 checks, there's a 10% chance of spawning a special item, and you'll know you have one when you get a call from your assistant. If you don't roll a special, just hop into a new invite-only lobby and try again. But once you do get a special item, make sure you've done at least 20 source missions before you try to spawn another one. Vehicle cargo is one of the most GTA businesses in all of GTA Online. If you're tired of spamming the same 2 heists over and over, if you can't find any excitement in driving garbage trucks around the map for your MC businesses, the vehicle cargo warehouse is going to be perfect for you. Short, action-packed missions, $80,000 in profit every 20 minutes, and you get to test drive some of the coolest cars in the game for free. But before you do any of that, you'll first need to own a CEO office. And if you already have a special cargo warehouse, this is nothing new, but for those among you who have yet to purchase a CEO office, I highly recommend the Maze Bank West location for you. It costs just $1 million and it's pretty centrally located, so you'll have no trouble traveling between this office and other locations such as your agency, auto shop, salvage yard. Plus, if you have the Criminal Enterprise starter pack, which I know a lot of people got for free when Epic was giving away GTA 5 back in 2020, you already have the Maze Bank West CEO office location in your collection. Once you have a CEO office, I also suggest upgrading it with an accommodation. Having a living quarters inside of the office means you can set it as your spawn point and just jump into a new invite-only lobby to speed up your source missions. Otherwise, every time you deliver a car to your warehouse, you'll have to drive all the way over to your CEO office, or of course need to use a terabyte, and there's only a 3-minute cooldown between source missions, but trust me, it will take you a lot longer to get back to your CEO office computer and you'll end up wasting time. So spend that $795,000, get an accommodation for your Maze Bank West office. Next, you'll need to purchase the actual warehouse where you store your vehicles, and unlike your special cargo warehouse where you can have up to 5 of those, with vehicle cargo, you can only own one single warehouse. There are a bunch of options for you to choose from though, and all of them hold a maximum of 40 cars. So again, it's not like special cargo where you have small, medium, and large warehouses. With vehicle cargo, no matter which location you get, you'll have the same storage capacity. And if you ask me, the La Mesa location is easily the best value for your money. First off, it's the cheapest of the bunch at just $1.5 million, so you can get it after a few Cluck and Bell heists. Secondly, it's located right next to a really good freeway, so you'll have no issues traveling back and forth between this warehouse and your source missions. Another excellent location players choose is La Puerta, but that costs a whopping $2.7 million, and if you're a newer player, I'd say skip this one and go for the La Mesa location instead. You can use the $1.2 million that you save to buy an entirely new business, or maybe even a terabyte. It costs just $1.4 million, and that might seem high at first, but the amount of value it provides is insane, especially after you install that master control terminal. But even if you don't have a master control terminal, the terabyte does let you start vehicle cargo source missions. So what a lot of players do is they park their terabyte right in front of the warehouse like this, and then right after they bring back a car to the warehouse, they'll just step outside and start a new mission immediately from their terabyte. Well, I say immediately, of course it actually takes that couple of minutes because of the cooldown, but right when that cooldown ends, they're back in business. And that's really good when you're filling up your warehouse, because you're always bringing cars back and then you hop in your terabyte and you're good to go. But once you're running this business in the optimal way, there's kind of no point for that because you're only sourcing one vehicle at a time, so you might as well just fast travel once back to your CEO office and start the source rather than spawn back at the vehicle warehouse, then call the terabyte, then start it from there. But overall, if you're grinding vehicle cargo, you need a fast personal vehicle to get to the location of that vehicle, no matter where it is on your map. Now, some good options are the Sparrow helicopter, which you get as a moonpool upgrade for the Kosatka, the Oppressor Mark II, which is a must-have for serious grinders, and the Hakuchou drag with HSW upgrades. If you don't own a Kosatka, or you don't have a Nightclub or Garment Factory for that terabyte, your next best option is to buy an accommodation in your CEO office and whip out that Hakuchou drag whenever you start a source mission. Armor's unnecessary for most of these missions as you barely do any fighting, and on the return trip you'll be driving the stolen car anyway, so don't bother with armored cars. Just take the Hakuchou with HSW upgrades and you'll get there fast, which is what really matters. Helicopters also work just fine. Whatever way and method will get you there the quickest. Oh, also, do all of your source missions in invite-only lobbies. It's way safer, and once again, you won't feel the need for an armored car or heavily weaponized vehicles every time you set out for a source mission, because the only people you're going to be fighting will be NPCs. Source in private, sell in public. That's how I like to do it, and I'll explain why in a short while. If you have a cargo bob or iron mule, some of the vehicle source missions become really easy because you can just hook up the car to your helicopter and fly over all the other NPC vehicles. That way they can't shoot you and damage your car, but then again, there are also missions where the cargo bob and iron mule are kind of worthless because you have to get someone out of their car before you could steal it, or you have to do a land race before you're able to steal the vehicle. That's why I usually just use the Oppressor Mark II or the Hakuchou drag or my Sparrow for my vehicle cargo source missions. It's a lot simpler for me that way, but once I get the vehicle I'm sourcing, if I see a really long distance to my warehouse, like 5 miles away or something like that, sometimes I'll choose to summon my trusty old iron mule and get back home with the vehicle quicker. Anyways, there are several different types of source missions here. We have 30 unique ones to be exact, and this is way more than you get in any other type of business. Not even the car wash, Higgins Helitors, and Smoke on the Water combined have this many mission types. Some source missions you'll have to invade Fort Zancudo and steal a cargo bob, which you then use to lift a car off of a barge, and then as you rush back to the warehouse, you'll also have enemy buzzards lighting you up from behind. In other source missions, you'll visit a mansion, steal the car with 0 resistance, only to find out that it's been sabotaged and you now have a bomb that's designed to go off if you drop below 59 miles an hour. Then there's another mission where you have a bunch of cops chasing chasing a car thief and you have to stop him and steal that car for yourself. This one's kind of hard to do if you're in an oppressor or sparrow, which is why I'll use the Hakucho drag sometimes. Drive next to the guy, dome him in the head with the AP pistol, and that's going to make things a lot easier and could for you as well. There are also missions where you arrive on the scene of a crime with the area cordoned off and steal the car while trying to evade the police. One nice thing about the vehicle warehouse source missions is that you can actually call Lester to remove your wanted level in many situations, unlike some other missions where the game prevents you from using Lester's powers. But here, it's super easy. If you have cops on you and you don't want your car to take unnecessary damage, give creepy Uncle Lester a call, and more often than not, he'll be able to get the popo off your butt. Now, I can't cover every single type of source mission there is, but the difficulty is directly tied to the resale value of your car. So, for example, there's a mission where you visit a movie set and steal the car by pulling off a stunt jump. This one's super easy, and it usually appears with standard or mid-range cars. Then you have a mission where you have to complete a race within a given time to win the prize ride from an arrogant millionaire, and if you have the Hakucho drag, you can beat his par time with 0 effort. He'll sick some of his goons on you, but just ignore them and keep driving. If you stop to shoot down the NPCs during source missions, they'll just repeatedly respawn, and all you're doing is wasting time because there are endless waves of these guys. Just zip past them and try to make it back to your warehouse with as little damage as possible. The amount of damage that you take will be deducted from your total profit for that sale, so just keep that in mind. But since we're exclusively selling top range vehicles, you don't have to worry too much about damages to standard and mid-range vehicles. Those two tiers are just there to act as bench warmers, while the real stars of the show, the top range vehicles, make all the money for you. So this is how it works. There are 32 unique car models in total that you can source for your vehicle cargo, and each one of these has 3 variations with unique license plates. As long as you get 10 unique standard range cars and 10 unique mid-range cars with different number plates, you'll only spawn top range cars from that point forward. But what I like to do is take this a step further by also sourcing all 12 unique top range vehicles. That way, the game will only give me a duplicate of that 30-second car, and I have precise control over which car I source next and which one I get to sell. So if you follow this method of sourcing 10 standard range, 10 mid-range, and even 12 top range cars in your warehouse, from there, what you do is sell any one of those 12 unique top range cars, and once you sell it, all you have to do is start up a new source mission, and you'll get that exact same source vehicle that you just sold. And realistically, the key here to avoid messing up this cheese is selling any duplicates of mid-range and standard range cars, so you only have unique models in your garage, and they all need to have different license plates as well. Maybe it's a little OCD on my end, but I always make sure to source a car back into my warehouse right after completing a sell mission before moving on to doing anything else in the game, because I personally don't want to be forgetful and accidentally sell a second top range vehicle before sourcing the first one back, which would mess this whole process up. Basically, the benefit here of having top range vehicles is of course the increased payout, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Take a look at these sell options. You have 2 ways to sell cars. You can either do an export, which is a solo sell, or you can sell a collection of 2 to 4 cars simultaneously, which gives you a slight bonus, but it does require extra players. I'm guessing you're solo, so collection is really out of the question, but when you go to export, you'll also have 3 options: private, showroom, and specialist exports. Private and showroom are a total waste of your time. The only option that matters here is specialist dealers. Selling to specialist dealers will give you $80,000 in profit, and all you have to do is put a few mods on the car. Things like paint, wheels, and license plates. All of these mods are included in the sale. Money won't be deducted from your account, so just choose ones that are going to speed up the process and customization, or customize it to your liking, whatever you want. I like to keep things as quick as possible. But what happens when you sell is you get $100,000 in commission per specialist sale, but $20,000 of that is going to go towards the vehicle mods. So profit wise, it's only $80,000 net, like I said earlier. Now, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can sell in an invite only lobby and get chased around by NPCs who could take up to 2 or 3 minutes of your time, or you can go into a public lobby and try to get that 50% high demand bonus, which takes the maximum profit up from $80,000 to $130,000 per top range vehicle if you have 20 or more players in the lobby, as it's a 2.5% bonus on the sale value per each player in the game, capped at 50% of the sale. The risk, of course, is that some douchebag on an Oppressor Mark II may blow up your car and waste 20 minutes of your time. I say 20 minutes because that's the cooldown between sell missions, and no, you can't reset it just by jumping lobbies, so realistically, you're only able to sell 3 cars per hour, which is still $240,000 in profit if you just sell them in invite-only sessions, and obviously, if you're in a public lobby, you can pad that time by doing a few money laundering missions, a few payphone hits, maybe another source mission for your vehicle warehouse, and then whenever your 20 minutes are up, you can do another sell. These days, I've noticed a lot of people don't really grief vehicle cargo as often as they used to, and things are a lot more chill, although you do get the occasional bad sport lobby. However, nowadays, people are way more likely to grief MC deliveries, bunker deliveries, deliveries, and special cargo, I don't really notice them going after Acid Lab sales, Nightclub sales, or vehicle cargo just because it's a single delivery vehicle. Maybe it's also because they know destroying $100,000 in value as opposed to $500,000 with an MC business or $1 million with a bunker just isn't as exciting. Maybe it's because the vehicles are faster and you have a much smaller time window to grief someone before they make their delivery, and it becomes even harder when the seller activates Ghost Organization. I don't think it really matters though. Either way, I recommend you try out public lobbies for a while. If someone destroys your car, switch to an invite-only lobby and do your remaining sells over there. But try out the public lobbies, because if you find a chill public lobby, stick around for an hour and you'll make an easy $390,000 worth of profit just by driving around some really fast cars. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this vehicle cargo guide. I made millions of dollars with this business back in the day on PlayStation 4 before Rockstar added all the fancy new heists and modern businesses that, yes, they're more better for money making, but from a pure gameplay standpoint, I can say that vehicle cargo has aged very, very well, especially with the new high demand sell bonus updates Rockstar added a few years ago. Much better than the OG heists and most contact missions you're gonna play, and it's certainly better than grinding Cayo or Dr. Dre 20 times in a row without blinking, thanks to that amazing mission variety that this business has. The Auto Shop is one of the most unique businesses in all of GTA Online, as it combines a garage, a vehicle tuning center, and multiple mini heists all into one building. And if you're a beginner who's really into cars, there's no better business to purchase early on, because you'll bypass GTA's rank requirements for car parts and immediately unlock everything at your personal auto shop. Plus, you'll get a 5% discount on parts compared to places like Benny's or LS Customs. But first, you're gonna need a location, and in order to get that, you'll have to visit the Los Santos car meet, where you'll watch this cutscene and the game will end up introducing you to Mimi. Then you'll be able to view all 5 auto shop locations on Mazebank foreclosures, and I recommend going with either the Burton or La Mesa location, as these two are the best spots due to their central placement. Both are priced around the $1.8 to $1.9 million range and come with a 10-car garage as well as a car lift installed by default. However, if you have Twitch Prime, you can get the Strawberry Auto Shop for free, and that's also a really nice location, as it'll be right next to your hands-on car wash and your salvage yard if you bought the Strawberry salvage yard. So you can arrange all 3 of your active businesses in a nice little triangle and travel between them within seconds. As for what upgrades you should get, there are cosmetic options like style, tint, and emblem, which don't matter for money making, so unless you really want to bling out your shop floor, I'd suggest skipping these if you're on a tight budget. Then you'll see the option to install a second car lift as well as a personal quarters in the extras section, and these are actually functional upgrades, which means they affect your money grind. The personal quarters cost $340,000, and it gives you a bed for fast travel, a gun locker, and a wardrobe. I highly recommend grabbing this, as it will allow you to spawn right inside your auto shop just by switching lobbies, which is an indispensable tool for any serious money grinder in this game. Then, if you fancy the customer car delivery side of the business, I'd also grab that second vehicle lift, as you can make $40,000 to $60,000 in profit in just 3 to 4 minutes by delivering 2 cars, one after the other. I wouldn't bother with staff members though, as they cost $385,000 each, and the AI for these guys is apparently based on the OG mechanic from the early days of GTA Online, aka Johnny Off the Spot, who is infamous for crashing your cars. And these staff members are no different here. They have to be habitual drunk drivers with the way they bust up customer vehicles, and after every delivery, Santa will send you a message detailing how much money you lost to damage fees. So yeah, a lot of players just don't bother with them and just deliver the vehicles themselves. It takes about 2 minutes max. And while we're on the subject of customer car deliveries, let me tell you exactly how it works. Every 48 minutes or 1 in-game day, there's a chance of spawning a vehicle in your auto shop. Notice how I said chance here, because it's literally 50-50 on whether you'll get a vehicle or not. So you log into the session, and after 48 minutes has elapsed, the game will roll the dice with 50% odds of a customer car spawning into your auto shop. If it fails, it'll wait under 48 minutes or 1 in-game day, and then it'll do another dice roll, and once again with the same 50% probability. If it doesn't, you're now locked in for a guaranteed spawn within 10 minutes of the second failed dice roll. So in the worst case, you can spend up to 1 hour and 46 minutes before you get a car. However, there's a trick to speed this up: installing a second lift. This will cut all timers in half, so now instead of rolling the dice every 48 minutes, the game will do it every 24 minutes. And the other cool thing about the customer vehicle delivery service is that sometimes, not every time, but sometimes you'll get cars that were previously removed from in-game websites and aren't available to purchase. However, if one of these removed vehicles shows up in your auto shop, you can actually buy it off the NPC and keep it for yourself. Now here's the entire list of customer cars that you can actually get, and you'll notice that there's a few blacklisted models in there, like the Coquette Blackfin, the Vamos, the Riata, and the Serrano. If you're wondering how much money you can make, first you'll have to spend a certain amount of your own cash installing the custom mods, and all you have to do is follow the exact list that the game gives you at the bottom of your screen. It's super easy. New paint job, performance tuning, bodywork, wheels, you'll spend anywhere from 20 to 50 grand installing these parts. That's because customer cars come in 3 different tiers: low, medium, and high tier. With low-end vehicles, you'll make exactly $20,000 in profit if you deliver the vehicle in immaculate condition. With medium-end vehicles, you'll make $25,000 profit. And with the high-end vehicles, you'll net $30,000 profit. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's easy work and you can double it by installing a second lift. Next, for the second type of money making with the auto shop, we've got exotic exports, and these will start appearing once you've done at least one contract from the job board. Exotic exports are similar to Simeon's export requests, and every day Sasanta will send you a list of 10 vehicles via SMS on your phone. Some of these spawn on the streets, others are marked by blue dots around the map. You get paid exactly $20,000 per vehicle, and if you find all 10 vehicles for that particular day, there's a $100,000 bonus, so you can earn a maximum of $300,000 this way. You'll also get 50 reputation points for the LS car meet with each exotic export that you deliver. Once again, it's a nice little quick activity for some cash in between other jobs if it pops up, but nothing too special on its own. The auto shop also comes with a 10-car garage included within the base price, and you get a 5% discount on every single part. Of course, you can't modify weaponized vehicles here, as those require an MOC or Avenger with a vehicle workshop, and you also can't install HSW upgrades here, but other than that, everything else is unlocked right from the start. So you can be only rank 5 with an auto shop, and you can install wheels, turbos, anything that would normally require you to be rank 50, rank 75, even rank 100. And modifying the vehicles is super easy, as the mod shop is right there next to the garage. Just step in, press a button, and you'll see all the options on your screen. Then you can take your car for a test drive, jump into a new lobby, spawn back in your auto shop, and modify a different vehicle. It's all very streamlined, and in the long run, you'll save hundreds of thousands of dollars because of that 5% parts discount. But I know why you guys are really here, and it's not for the customer car deliveries or the custom paint jobs. You're here because you want to know how much money you can make with the auto shop. So I'll give you the details up front. Approximately $420,000 an hour, guaranteed, even if you're a little slow with your aim and don't have the best driving skills. But if you get a bit of practice in, you can take that figure up to 600 grand per hour, because each of these 8 mini heists can be done within 20 minutes. And yes, you can use your Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow for the 2 setup missions. You just can't use them in the finale, and that's fine, because I also have a few tricks that will significantly cut down your completion time on meta heists like the ECU job and Union Depository. So here's how it all works. First, you need to go to your job board, which is on the 2nd level, and there you'll find a randomized selection of 3 heists. Each one has exactly 2 setups and a finale. Payout varies from $170,000 all the way up to $300,000 for the Union Depository job, which is the exception to the rule with this business. Literally every other auto shop pays between $170,000 and $185,000. A lot of people grind Union Depository for that exact reason. It doesn't take any more time than the normal heists, and for some reason, it pays nearly twice as much. And my first tip here that you need to know is which auto shop contracts are worth grinding. Jobs like the data contract, while fun, don't pay as much money for the amount of effort you put in. However, if you do the ECU job or the super dollar deal or even the prison contract, you can optimize your income per hour. There is 0 cooldown between heists, but you can't repeat the same one over and over and over. So the ideal strategy here is to start with the Union Depository for a quick $270,000 in profit, then do either the ECU job or super dollar deal for another 150 grand. That's $420,000 right there in under 40 minutes. And if you want to go the full hour, you can add in a third heist like the prison contract or the bank contract for your $600,000. Notice how the actual profit you make is slightly less than the total payout. That's because Sasanta and KDJ take a 10% cut. So while the Union Depository pays out a nominal amount of $300,000, once you factor in their cut, you're making $270K in pure profit. However, you can also make $10K for each setup mission. So in reality, it's more like $290,000 profit, which is not bad at all for less than 20 minutes of gameplay. Now let me give you some tips on how to speed up those setup missions and how to get the exact contract that you want. First, grab yourself that Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow. Even a VTOL fighter like the Raiju or the Hydra will work perfectly fine here. Just get something that flies. The second best option is a fast land vehicle like the Vigilante or the HSW Hakuchou Drag. Then go to your job board in the auto shop and see which contracts are available. If you don't see a meta contract like the Union Depository or ECU job, simply start one of the random ones, walk outside of the shop, then text Sasanta and tell her to cancel your contract. Walk back inside after that, and you'll find that the job board has now refreshed. You can essentially re-roll the contracts as many times as you want until you get your favorite ones that you want to grind. Next, you'll have to do the setup missions, and these are generally pretty straightforward, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually skip certain missions entirely just by loading into a new lobby. Specifically, the signal jammer setup for the bank contract and the defenses setup for the data contract. So whenever you load into these two setup missions while playing through these contracts, just open up your GTA Online menu and load into a new invite-only lobby. The game will let you skip past them, count them as completed, and you will go straight to the finale, bringing your total completion time down to just 15 or 16 minutes per heist. A couple years ago, you could actually use your personal vehicles in the finale simply by driving up to a garage, which is how a lot of people got their hands on the Oppressor Mark II during some of the more annoying finales, but Rockstar has since patched that exploit, so you can't use it anymore. There was also another exploit in the Union Depository contract where players would get blackout drunk on pisswassers in the elevator and they'd spawn away from the police ambush outside the bank, but that one's also been patched. However, if you're doing the ECU job, I've got a technique here that will help you out in the finale and let you stop that train much faster. And there are two ways to do this. You can either use the sharpshooter loadout with the sticky bombs and heavy sniper, or you can pick the hustler loadout with the bullpup rifle and pipe bombs. If you go with the sharpshooter, simply place 2 sticky bombs on the track like this. And blow them up right as the train passes over them. If you time it properly, you can kill all 4 brake cylinders with 1 explosion. Alternatively, if you have the hustler loadout, you can climb this light post right here and drop onto the train engine. Then aim right here and toss your pipe bomb to blow out the first set of cylinders. Next, toss another pipe bomb by aiming here to blow out the second set of cylinders in the front. Finally, for the Union Depository contract, which is the highest paying mini heist in your auto shop, you can once again pick the hustler loadout and then kill these noose officers on your exit, turn left and take this cop car along this road to the La Mesa station, where then you'll find a Frogger on the roof, and this is the very same strat that players use to speed up the casino heist, by the way. Then simply pilot the Frogger to the drop-off, and you'll get there much faster while also losing your wanted level along the way. And there you have it, guys. These are all my top tips for money making with the auto shop in GTA Online. I think you can do all these missions in a reasonable amount of time with Sasanta's Tailgater S, but if you want an upgrade, get either the Jester RR or even better, the Calico GTF, and install louvers in the back to make your car bulletproof. The business I'm talking about is none other than the wonderful Hangar, which when combined with the Higgins Helitor's 10% buff will pay you $4.2 million in just over 4 hours if you sell in a public lobby with over 20 players. So let me explain how this works. First, you're going to need the Higgins Helitor's business, which can be purchased for $900,000 once you have the hands-on car wash. Then you're going to want to source one type of crate to get that highly coveted 70% bonus. So whether it's medical supplies or narcotics or chemicals, you want exactly 50 crates of the same type. Normally, there is a 4-minute cooldown before you could source more crates of the same type, but I'll explain how to bypass that cooldown later in the video, and it's actually pretty simple, so keep watching till the very end. Next, you need a fast personal vehicle that you can spawn right next to you. Ideally, this would be a Sparrow, Oppressor Mark II, or a Raiju, as those are 3 of the fastest grinding tools in the game. Personally, for these types of missions, I do prefer the Sparrow, as it does have a higher top speed than the Oppressor Mark II, and this extra speed comes in handy because a lot of the sourcing missions require you to travel to faraway places like the Alamo Sea, Paleto Bay, or even the Sandy Shores airfield. Plus, the Sparrow is a lot cheaper than if you went with the Raiju, so if you're new to the game, it's probably the way to go. Either way, if you use any of these 3 flying vehicles, you can comfortably finish a land-based source mission from start to end within 5 minutes, allowing you to do 12 per hour if you also abuse the cooldown skip. Now, let's talk location. If you don't own a hangar, which one should you buy? A lot of folks will recommend the Fort Zancudo hangars because they allow you to fly in without immediately slapping a 4-star wanted level on yourself. Plus, there's always the free laser jet parked on the runway, which is a nice bonus as well. But then I've also seen some other players recommend the LSIA hangars, which are a lot cheaper based on the logic that these are going to be much closer to your other businesses like your agency, CEO office, auto shop, etc. So you can travel between businesses much faster. And while that might seem like a pretty good reason to get an LSIA hangar, I definitely suggest saving the extra cash and going for any of the Fort Zancudo locations. Doesn't really matter which one, as long as it's in Fort Zancudo in the first place. And the reason reason for this is most of your air freight cargo source missions will take you to Paleto Bay, Sandy Shores Airfield, or the Alamo Sea as land source missions, and all of these are much closer to Fort Zancudo than they are to LSIA. Some missions will pop up on the south side of the map as well, but even in that situation, because Fort Zancudo hangars are in such a central location, you'll have no trouble getting there fast on the off chance that you do actually have to go there for a mission. And on average, these missions will take you less time to complete if you start at Fort Zancudo, and this will add up in the long run. So the money you save initially by going for the cheaper LSIA location just really isn't worth it, I feel like. And if you're concerned about traveling between your businesses, remember that we have a living quarter, so you can just switch your spawn point and jump into a new invite-only lobby instead of driving or flying to your destination, and that's definitely what I would recommend you do to speed things up. With all the prep work out of the way though, it's finally time to make lots of money with our shiny new hangar, and for this we're going to source crates and then sell those crates once our storage is maxed out. Sounds simple, but there's a lot more nuance to it. For example, the type of crate that you source will affect your payout, and there are two different types of source missions: air and land missions. I'm gonna go ahead here and ask you to never do the air source missions anymore because those just kinda suck. Some players like them, but overall they just take longer than the land ones that we have now, and they're definitely not worth the additional effort if you're just going for time and efficiency. I know it's called the hangar, and you'd think that missions involving flying would be more fun, but unfortunately Rockstar's designers really dropped the ball on this one, and the addition of the land-based source missions and cell missions with the San Andreas Mercenaries update was the response and the equivalent of applying a band-aid on the wound that they created in the first place. The same thing applies to the cell missions, by the way. Never do air cell missions. Instead, always do land-based cells. And thanks to a recent update, you will now get exactly one vehicle for all your land-based cell missions from the hangar, irrespective of how much product you have in storage. So even with a full load of 50 crates, you'll just get one delivery vehicle. Now let's talk about the various types of source missions, as these have a big impact on how much time it takes for you to fill up your hangar. There are 4 types here: break-in, crash site, deal interruption, and sunken treasure. Ideally, you'll want the generator break-in mission, as this is the simplest and provides the least resistance. You'll know when it pops up because you're asked to fly either to La Mesa or Richmond, and when you get there, you'll find a lockup with a generator that's connected to the door. Blow up or shoot the generator and you can just fly away with the cargo inside. That one's really good to use the Oppressor Mark II on because there's no guards, nobody's going to chase after you since you're in a flying vehicle. The break-in source mission overall, really no matter what vehicle you're using, can reliably be done in 3 minutes or less, and it's the best and fastest one for grinding. Then you have the crash site mission, which is a little bit more time consuming since you first fly to the Sandy Shores Airfield where Rooster has crashed his Streamer 216, and you'll find a bunch of thugs guarding the place. Plus a civilian notices all the mayhem and calls the cops, so you have to fight them all off at the same time. It's still quite easy because all you have to do is just spam your homing missiles as you approach the site, land next to the glowing crate, and take off immediately once you secure it. Honestly, you don't even need to fire homing missiles. There's no need to engage at all in any prolonged or any short gunfight. No need to kill all the enemies. Just land, grab, and take off. That one can be done in 5 minutes. The deal interruption mission is where you search for a container, and it's also quite simple. Just go to the location where the gangs are negotiating a deal, shoot up the place with homing missiles from your Oppressor or Sparrow, then spot the cargo container, and at this stage, the game expects you to use the semi-truck that's parked nearby, but the much faster way to do so is by simply blowing up the trailer and flying away with its contents. This does not reduce the value of the cargo in any way, you won't lose it, and it's the only way that you should do this mission. Just clear a path, blow up the container, collect the crate, and fly back to the hangar with your cargo. The 4th type of land source mission is the sunken treasure mission, and for this you'll fly someplace far away like Paleto Bay, the Alamo Sea, or El Burro Heights. Whenever you see these locations, it's honestly probably best to load into a new invite only, as this particular land source mission is almost as bad as some of the air source missions, as it just takes the longest amount of time. First, you have to go to the location, then you have to land on a barge, find a switch to drop the cargo, then you take a Kraken a Visa sub down to the ocean floor to scoop it up, and bring it back to the shore, where then you'll load it into a mule truck and drive that slow van back to the hangar. Or you could just blow up the mule and fly back with the cargo, same as with the container mission we just talked about, but that's still way too time consuming. And so I suggest if you're going for time and efficiency, definitely just load into a new lobby whenever you get this particular source mission, and the amount of time you spend on loading screens is going to be nothing compared to the amount of time that you'll waste driving around that stupid Avisa and even mule. If you want to skip all the manual sourcing shenanigans entirely, you can also just ask Rooster to source crates for you. He takes 48 minutes to do so, costs $25,000, and he will return with either 1, 2, or sometimes even 3 crates. Usually he brings back 1 or 2. A triplet is extremely rare. Now remember, Each crate has a base value of $30,000, and you're spending $25,000 to source it, so your profit margins are going to fall off a cliff if you exclusively use Rooster for sourcing. But he also buys you 48 minutes of time, which you can then do Cluck and Bell, 7 money laundering operation missions, 2 auto shop robberies, 2 FIB files, or every single setup for Cayo Perico. You get the idea. $5,000 may be the profit you're making from your crate business with every Rockstar source, but you also get that 48 minutes of time that you don't have to spend flying around repeating the same missions over and over. That gets really boring, of course, and ultimately, Rooster isn't going to be that good for profit, but if you think about it, you're spending $1.25 million to get $1.65 million in return, assuming he only brings 1 crate at a time. That's with the Higgins Helitors buff, so $33,000 per crate and 50 crates. You're getting just $400,000 in profits, but remember, if you do that, you're also doing absolutely nothing except pressing 1 button every time you spawn into your hangar to pay him to go source cargo for you. You're basically trading a lot of your hangar profits for time that you can spend in doing more exciting content, and that's a trade-off that some like me are willing to make. I don't usually farm hangar crates all the time because I'm busy with the auto shop, the FIB garment factory file, the salvage yard, the agency, literally anything else that requires my time and attention, whereas hangar crates and even CEO cargo, I don't want to waste time sourcing, so I always pay my technicians to source for me. That way I'm making money with these businesses when I otherwise wouldn't be making any money with them at all. Ultimately, it's up to you, because if you source crates manually, that'll give you the 70% bonus, which you won't get with Rooster because he can source random goods. Plus, you spend $0 on sourcing, so the profit margins are going to be at their absolute best, and they're pretty insane. But you also have to spend a significant amount of time, at least 4 hours in a row for a full hangar. And now, while we're on the topic of bonuses here, here's a quick chart that's going to show you how much you get for each type of good. While the base value of each crate type is locked to $30,000, the real benefit comes from multi-crate bonuses, which can vary. As you can see, the 3 most profitable goods are narcotics, medical supplies, and chemicals. All 3 of these provide a 70% bonus if you exclusively stock your hangar warehouse with 50 of any type. However, what most people do is a 50-50 split. For example, they can source a chemical crate. Then, while that's on its cooldown, they go do a medical crate. The cooldown for each crate is 4 minutes, so you can overlap 2 types of crates in a split formation without being blocked by either one of the cooldowns. Or if you're a serious grinder, what you can do is bring back a crate, quit into the main menu, then load into story mode, and from there jump into an invite-only lobby. This will completely remove the cooldown on all crate types because the hangar cooldown isn't a stat that's tied to the hangar business. It's instead a global variable that resets whenever you relaunch the game from the main menu. And yeah, this quote-unquote skip has been around for a while now, and Rockstar has yet to patch it, so if you want, take full advantage of it before it goes. And if you're a true sweat lord here, you can shave off a few more seconds each time by parking your terabyte in front of the hangar and starting your source missions from there. But if you're on last gen, you probably might as well do the 50-50 split because loading takes forever on those slow hard drives. It's really only viable for players with PCs, especially if you have a fast solid state drive, or of course, you're on current gen consoles. Remember, you have to quit all the way to the main menu. Simply reloading into a new invite-only lobby for this will not work. Alright. Now that I've elaborated on all the ways you can source your crates, let's discuss selling here. This goes without saying, but never do air cells. Always do land cells. That way you'll only get 1 vehicle. Usually you'll get the Apocalypse version of the Weenie Issy, the Vapid Rattel, or the container truck. Sometimes the game will give you a Maxwell Vagrant, but that has been quite rare for me in recent times. If you get the Issy, you have to make 10 short stops, and it's usually a route through the sewers or railway tracks. With the Rattel, you make 5 drops, and it usually involves a bit of off-roading on your part, but the easiest and by far the best one in my opinion is the trailer cell mission because you only have 1 drop off, and therefore all you have to do is hook up the container to your Iron Mule and you can simply fly all the way there to deliver it. At the destination, there's usually another semi-truck cab parked nearby, so you can drive it into the yellow circle and that's it, job done. Don't forget to sit in the cab at the hangar so you get the GPS data, then place down your own marker on the map. Otherwise, you'll simply hook up the Iron Mule to that container and you won't know where to go otherwise. If you sell with the 70% bonus in an invite-only lobby, you'll make $2.8 million from a full 50 crates, provided you own the Higgins helicopter tour business, and it shouldn't take you more than 4 hours total to source all of it if you use the cooldown skip and load into a new lobby whenever you get a bad source mission. But you can boost this a further 50% with the high demand bonus and take that payout all the way up to $4.2 million. It's going to be a bit risky, but on a double payout week, it might just be worth it if you aren't afraid of shooting down a pesky griefer or 2. The railgun or heavy sniper with explosive rounds are both excellent options for dealing with oppressor kitties, and if you get the trailer cell mission, it's super easy to just hook it up to your Iron Mule and activate Ghost Orc so you can fly there in a couple minutes and finish the mission before anyone even lays their hands on you. In my opinion, the agency is one of the best value for money businesses in all of GTA Online, despite costing over $2 million for the cheapest location. Now, not only does it offer 4 different sources of income, but it also comes with a Mark II weapons workshop, personal accommodations and living quarters, Imani Tech vehicle upgrades, as well as a 20-car garage. Plus, you get to choose from 10 different fast travel locations around the city and the option to grab a free helicopter ride to any location of your choice while you exit the building. The thing that really makes the agency stand out here is the fact that everything I just mentioned, apart from the vehicle workshop, armory, and personal quarters, is provided to you from the start. No equipment or staff upgrades needed. You can just buy an agency and start making money right off the bat. This is different from other businesses like the Nightclub or even the Acid Lab, where you must first make a few investments before the cash really starts to roll in. Not the case with the agency. You get the max amount of income on day one, and the best part is that you can initiate all types of contracts except for the Dr. Dre VIP contract right from the comfort of your vehicle, so that you don't even need to be in the agency in order to make money. Granted, the payout can vary a lot, and you need to learn the timings in order to get the most out of this business, which is why I've decided to create an agency money making guide. And so in this video, I will teach you the best ways to make money with the agency and why it's one of the best starter businesses in the game for solo players. Veterans already know all of this stuff, which is why my video is targeted primarily at newcomers and returning players who haven't really touched the game in a long time. But before we get into the specifics of money making with the agency, let's talk about what it is and how you can get one. Basically, the agency is a front for a problem-solving organization that caters exclusively to big money mafia types and crooked politicians. People who are too rich or politically exposed to get their hands dirty come to Franklin with all their problems, and since you're his partner and field agent, you get a nice chunk of the profits as long as you carry out the task. Expect everything from protection and repossession of assets to assassinations and theft. Franklin is kind of like the fixer of Los Santos, and you're his muscle. As for the actual jobs, there are 2 main types of content in the agency building: security contracts and payphone hits. The first is unlocked as soon as you purchase the agency, which, by the way, doesn't have to be any specific location. If you're starting out, I highly recommend the Little Soul agency, which comes in at $2,010,000 and offers all the benefits of the more expensive Hawick site at 71% of the cost. Okay, now with that out of the way, how do you buy an agency? Thankfully, there are no prerequisites here. You just need the cash. Open up the internet browser on your phone, log into the Dynasty 8 Executive Realty website under the Money and Services section, and select the Agencies tab. You'll be given a choice between 4 different locations, all of which are in central Los Santos, which means you can easily access your other properties from here. At the start, you don't need to purchase any of the upgrades if you don't have the cash, but I highly recommend both the Armory and the Vehicle Workshop upgrades later on in the game. The Armory is basically a personal ammunition store built into your agency, which means you'll never have to scavenge around the map for ammo or gear before missions as long as you set your spawn point to the agency. And also, you get a 5% discount on every item, which can be boosted to 10% if you get commendations from your fellow players. Inside of the agency Armory, you can buy weapons, upgrade weapons to Mark II, attach stuff like flashlights, scopes, extended magazines, etc., and you can even buy armor, which is a huge bonus. At first, this may not seem like such a big deal since there are other businesses that also come with an armory upgrade, but remember, none of them stock gear such as body armor, rebreathers, or night vision. The agency armory is the only place that sells gear in addition to weapons, ammo, and explosives. Plus, you get free snacks on both the bottom and top floors of your agency, so you'll always be ready for a fight the moment you walk out of your agency. And don't forget the Imani Tech Vehicle Workshop, which lets you install remote control modules and missile lock-on jammers on your personal vehicles. Right now, the agency is the only place where you can install these Imani Tech upgrades, mainly because Imani happens to be one of your employees and she's located on the floor just above your office. So if you want that sweet lock-on jammer to keep you safe from Oppressor Mark II griefers, you know where to spend $800,000. But the most underrated feature of the agency by far is its transportation. Besides the garment factory, this is one of the only businesses in the game with a built-in fast travel, but it also lets you take a helicopter ride on your way out. Now, this fast travel isn't perfect, but with 10 different locations to pick from, including hotspots such as LSIA, Grapeseed, Sandy Shores, and Paleto Bay, it's easily one of the best ways to cut down on your travel time. You activate fast travel by interacting with the guy at the front desk and picking the SUV service. Once you pick a location, the game plays a small 5-second cutscene of your agency SUV rolling out and cuts immediately to the destination you selected. Alternatively, if you want more control over your destination, you can go to the aerial route with a helicopter exit. The Super Valito Carbon is free, whereas all others cost $200 each. And by the way, you can get that Super Valito Carbon and put it in your hangar if you want, just by flying over one from the agency. that still works in this game. Now, the agency also comes with a level 3 garage. You get 1 parking spot on level 1, 10 on level 2, and 9 more on level 3 for a total of 20 parking spaces. So if it's early in your career and you're running low on parking spaces and don't want to waste money on more garages, there you go. Buy an agency and get a bunch of parking space in addition to all of the new money-making options at your disposal. Speaking of which, let's talk about the reason you guys clicked on this video. How do you make money with an agency? And is it worth it? I will tell you right now that if you're expecting the hourly returns to be on par with Cayo, Perico, or the Diamond Casino Heist, you'll probably be disappointed because, to be frank, there is no other heist or contract in the game that compares with those two. However, if you evaluate the agency on its own terms, which is a nice starter business with 0 startup costs and a simple schedule, it's easily one of the most beginner-friendly money-making methods in the entire game. See, it's really simple. Like I said earlier, you have 2 ways of making money: contracts and payphone hits, but there's also a third passive source, which is your office safe that accumulates money after each successful contract. You get $100 per contract, $500 per 5 contracts, and it's deposited into your safe at the start of a new in-game day, so every 48 minutes IRL. The maximum cap on your daily passive earnings is $20,000, so you need to do a total of 201 contracts to hit this cap, which is how you get $20,000 every 48 minutes you play the game. The safe itself can hold up to $250,000 too, so be sure to remove the money once it reaches this cap, or else it will stop accumulating more income and you'll be wasting in-game playtime. Now let's talk about the contracts themselves. There are 2 types of contracts. There's security contracts as well as VIP contracts. When you buy your agency for the first time, Franklin will run you through all the details and show you your office space. Inside of your office, there is a computer that you can use to log into the F. Clinton and Partner local network, and this page shows you how many security contracts you've completed, as well as your total earnings from the agency business. Security contracts come in 3 tiers of difficulty: professional at the bottom, specialist in the middle, and specialist plus at the top. When you open the security contracts page, it will always give you 3 contracts to choose from at any time. And there are 6 different classes of contracts: asset protection, gang termination, liquidize assets, recover valuables, rescue operation, and vehicle recovery. These are all pretty much self-explanatory, and the actual class or type of contract doesn't really matter as much as the pay grade. Ideally, you want Specialist Plus, as these pay between $60,000 and $70,000 per contract, despite taking the same amount of time as the others. But most of the time, the game will assign you Professional or Specialist work. Professional is the lowest tier and pays anywhere from $30,000 to $42,000, and Specialist pays in the mid-40,000 to $50,000, and it may be just as difficult as Professional or even slightly easier depending on the exact task. Some of these missions are quite tedious, maybe like the asset protection one, where you literally have to sit and guard assets for 15 minutes or 12 minutes at a time sometimes, but others are quite easy, like the rescue operation missions, where you drive into one area, search for an asset and eliminate a couple threats, and drive back with that asset and protecting him in your car. Now, for the protection and rescue missions, I do highly recommend an armored vehicle. The Ampante Duke of Death is my go-to pick for new players, as you can literally get it for free on the Warstock Cash and Carry website, and it's completely impervious to bullets from most angles. Rescue operations are kind of in that middle tier, same with gang terminations, and I would just say avoid asset protection at all costs. Now that does it for security contracts. Now most of these take anywhere from about 5 minutes on average to sometimes 10 minutes or more, and you get about $45,000 to $50,000 on average, which I think is pretty solid for the amount of time you spend on them. Also, you can initiate these contracts from anywhere on the map simply by calling Franklin and asking him for a security contract, so don't worry about driving back and forth between your agency and other properties. For me, the security contracts are something you can do between heist cooldowns or resupplies for your acid lab or your math lab or other MC businesses or just other things in general. Once you complete a contract, you cannot request a new one until 5 minutes have passed because of that 5-minute cooldown. Then we have the next type of agency contract, which is the VIP contract that you do for Dr. Dre. But before I get into that, let me first talk about payphone hits. Payphone hits are these really short mini assassination missions that are unlocked once you do 3 normal contracts. I've seen a lot of rumors about certain conditions needing to be fulfilled here, but there are only 2 things you need before Franklin rings you up. First, you need to own that agency. And second, you need to finish 3 normal contracts. That's it. Just 2 prerequisites, and Franklin will call you up on a random payphone as you're driving around town. Now, don't worry here. You can't miss it. Even if you drive past and do some other mission, it will appear in blue on your map, and it will be marked accordingly. Now, once you accept that first payphone hit, you can then request new ones simply by calling up Franklin. Each payphone hit pays $15,000 at a base and gives you a $30,000 bonus if you do the assassination according to Franklin's special specifications. One of my favorites is when he asks you to kill these basement-dwelling internet trolls who are colluding on social media to manipulate stock prices. Apparently, some big shot executive types don't want these kids meddling with their company fortunes, so they ask Franklin to come take care of the problem. And your job is to make sure that the kill looks like random accident. So instead of shooting them, you must use a vehicle to drive them over. If you just shoot them, you'll get the base $15K, but if you drive them over, you'll get an extra $30,000 for your efforts, which comes out to $45,000 for just 5 to 6 minutes of work. Now, other variants of that same mission will require headshots, for example, and on and on and on. Now, there are other memorable missions too, like when you're asked to kill a company CEO who pretends to be a down-to-earth, blue-collar type in front of the camera, but in private is a total asshole and mistreats his employees. So one day when he's dressed up like a worker on a construction site and mingling with his employees for a media report, you drive over and assassinate him by blowing up a giant gas tank with your silent sniper rifle to make it look like he died from a work-related incident. Again, you could just shoot him, but you'll get less than half the maximum payout. Payphone hits are a really nice way to fill in the gaps between other types of content, and they're kind of like time trials, only a lot more murderous, if that makes sense. The cooldown on payphone hits is 10 minutes. It used to be 48 a couple years ago, and the payphone hits paid $85,000, but Rockstar changed the payout and cooldown in a patch, and they did it actually a few times, so this is the current one. $45,000 payout with the bonus objective, 10-minute cooldown. Now, they're easier to grind, but worse if you only do one per session or one per hour because the payout has been cut in half. Alright, now it's finally time to talk about the main course, also known as the Dr. Dre VIP contract. This is a multi-stage heist of sorts, in which you're tasked with finding Dr. Dre's lost phone that has a number of unreleased demo tracks on it. The contract starts off with a raid into the FIB headquarters, where you land on the roof with a helicopter and cut through the skylight with a plasma torch. Then you install Imani's virus on the security terminals to steal the FIB's mass surveillance program. Pretty crazy stuff, and it culminates in a skydive off the top of the building. Then you play another setup mission where you meet the man, Dr. Dre himself, on a golf course and bully a couple of rich golfer bros after they threaten to get Dre's club membership revoked. Both the FIB and golf course missions are first time only, meaning you don't have to play them again unless you want to after you beat the VIP contract at least once. Next, there are 3 different copies of Dre's phone floating around Los Santos, and each case has its own setup and finale with 9 missions in total. In the first case, you go after a trust fund kid in his 20s who's been bragging all over social media about releasing Dr. Dre's exclusive tracks. It starts off with a nightclub raid and ends with a massive gunfight in the Diamond Casino where you track down the kid and steal all his copies of Dr. Dre's unreleased music. Then, in the second case, you go after this crazy billionaire who wants to turn Dre's demo tracks into multi-million-dollar NFTs, and he's auctioning these NFTs at some exclusive garden party. So you drive in there with a fake ID, blow up a bunch of expensive cars, and terrorize the billionaire until he decides to flee in his private helicopter. The finale of this case can be quite troublesome since you'll have very little cover to work with, and you'll also be swarmed from all sides by heavily armed guards while simultaneously defending against a perpetually respawning chopper that keeps poking at you from the air. So I definitely advise bringing lots of sticky bombs as well as a fully loaded homing launcher. With the sticky bombs, you can quickly blow up the expensive cars and cause lots of mayhem, which is going to dramatically increase the intimidation meter and force the fight to progress into the second phase where that billionaire is going to attempt to run away in his helicopter. You can't lock onto the chopper, but you can still free aim with your homing launcher and blow it out of the sky. Miniguns also work, things like that. In the third case, you're going back to the hood because this time it looks like one of the Ballas has stolen a copy of Dre's phone. But later, it turns out that the real thief was a Vagos gang member, so the Ballas and DNF team up to hunt him down for Dr. Dre. Later, we find out the Vagos got their copy from a man called Johnny Guns, who has a record producer and has beefed with Dr. Dre since the 90s. He's the mastermind behind all of this and is responsible for stealing Dr. Dre's original phone. And this is where we get into the finale stage of the Dre contract. You play 2 more missions, both of which are pretty straightforward gun battles with loads of enemies, and it ends with Dre gifting you his unreleased music and a completion bonus of $1 million. You also get around $100,000 from all the setup missions, so it's about $1.1 million in total for probably first time 2.5 hours of work because of like little cooldowns in between missions. But once you're farming this over and over, you can do it in an hour 20 minutes to an hour 30 minutes very, very easily. Now, like I said earlier, you will be disappointed if you compare this to Cayo Perico, which can give you $1 million in 1 hour, but the Dr. Dre storyline, for one, is quite entertaining for a first-time playthrough, and the missions themselves are fairly enjoyable, even though they might get a bit repetitive after a few tries. Now, if you're a new player and wondering how you can afford an agency, I definitely suggest the Cluck and Bell Farm Raid and the Los Santos Drug Wars missions. Meet up with Vincent for the Cluck and Bell Raid and Dax for the First Dose missions. Each playthrough of the Cluck and Bell Farm Raid gives you $500,000, and it can be completed in less than an hour. The First and Last Dose missions also give you around $500,000 in total, and you get the Brigade 6x6 to set up your acid lab, which is an excellent source of passive income for solo players. But even if you don't want to do all that, check out my videos on earning $100 million as fast as possible, as well as my ranking every business video, so you can kind of see where the agency falls into play compared to the rest of the businesses in the game. The most important thing to understand about the Nightclub is that it's one of the best long-term investments you can make in the entire game, so starting as early as possible will give you an advantage. And while it's slightly more complex than your typical cargo, warehouse, or MC business, once you understand how warehouse management works, the Nightclub transforms into one of the best sources of passive income in the entire game. But before we begin here, there's a caveat. Getting the Nightclub early is good, but only if you can afford it. And I know I said this is a long-term investment, so get it as early as possible, but you'll put yourself in serious trouble at the very start of the game if you invest your first $2 million on a brand new Nightclub with a bunch of fancy upgrades that only add cosmetic value. Besides, there's honestly no point in getting a Nightclub first if you don't already own at least a few other businesses, because one of your main sources of income is the warehouse, and unless you assign any technicians to source illicit goods for you, you're going to be losing out on millions of dollars of potential income. So wait a few weeks, grab yourself a math lab or a Coca-Cola lockup, special cargo warehouse, or a hangar, and then you can buy into a conveniently located Nightclub to further boost the income from your other businesses. And speaking of conveniently located, the ideal spot for a Nightclub is at the center of the map. You don't want to go too far south, because then you'll have to waste a lot of time driving your really slow delivery vehicles anytime you need to do a cell mission. Often the cell missions will take you to the northern part of the map, which means locations like LSIA or even Elysian Island will force you to drive across the entire map in your Mule or Pounder Custom. So in my opinion here, you should save up for either the downtown Vinewood Nightclub or the West Vinewood Nightclub. These are priced at $1.7 million, but they're worth it for the amount of time they'll save you. I like the West Vinewood location because I don't really like pulling into the garage with downtown Vinewood, but maybe you do. Alternatively, instead of downtown Vinewood or West Vinewood, you could also go for the Del Perro location, as it's really close to the agency in Little Seoul and Vespucci Canals, so you can spawn right into your agency, stock up on your ammo and snacks, maybe start a Dr. Dre contract if you want, and then visit your Nightclub in between missions to keep the popularity at maximum. Now, I will explain popularity shortly, but for now, just know that the further north you go with your Nightclub location, the better. Then later in your career, you'll have vehicles like the Oppressor and Deluxo, so getting around between your other various businesses won't take as long, but cell missions are going to be a lot easier with the centrally placed Nightclubs, as they're right next to freeways. Alright, now that we've decided on which Nightclub to buy, let's talk a little bit about the initial setup. First, you'll need to buy a Nightclub from Maze Bank Foreclosures website on your phone, then you'll be asked to select from a variety of additional options during checkout. You've got your Nightclub style, light rig, dancers, dry ice, and all that good stuff that looks really pretty, but ignore it for now because these are just cosmetic upgrades and they'll burn a hole in your pocket if this is your first time purchasing a Nightclub. However, there is one option you should definitely pick if you can afford it, and that's the storage. What storage does is give you more space in the basement, both for your goods and your vehicles. You can get up to 4 extra floors for Nightclub warehouse goods, so your cell missions will be way more profitable. And as a bonus, you can also get up to 3 extra garage floors, each holding a maximum of 10 cars, so an extra 30 vehicle slots, which is pretty awesome. But if you don't have the money for a storage expansion right now, no big deal. You can always come back later and renovate your Nightclub on the website for the added space. It does cost $1.7 million in total for 4 additional warehouse floors, and about $550,000 for the 3 additional garage floors, however, but keep in mind you can also buy these floors individually if you want over time. Now, once you've actually purchased your Nightclub, you'll have to sit and visit and talk with Gay Tony to start this business, and there are some really funny cutscenes featuring Tony Prince and everyone's favorite radio host Laszlo Jones. Next, you'll be asked to complete 2 missions, and in the first one, you visit a music festival and steal a bus filled with audio equipment from some hippies, and then in the second mission, you and English Dave race through the streets of Los Santos to rescue DJ Solomon while his plane undergoes a rapid unscheduled descent, aka a crash because the pilot is too drunk after their last party. Now, once you get your first DJ, your nightclub can start raking in legal income through the dance floor and the built-in bar, while you're free to pursue your more illicit activities away from the prying eyes of the public, up in the second floor office. Now here inside your office, you have your computer, which is used to manage everything from DJs to nightclub promotions and warehouse technicians. You can also install upgrades through your nightclub computer, and these are the typical staff and equipment upgrades that you see in various other businesses in the game. The equipment upgrade costs $1.4 million, and it will allow your warehouse techs to source goods faster. The staff upgrade costs $475,000, and that will give you additional bartenders and bouncers to reduce daily popularity loss. And finally, there's the security upgrade, which costs around $700,000, but honestly, in my opinion, you can skip this one as raids won't really happen unless you're registered as a CEO or MC president constantly. So just get in, do your business, then disband or retire as soon as you get out. Oh, also, you don't have to worry about raids unless you have a sizable amount of stock in your warehouse anyway, and that's at least about 40% from my experience. But I still have it purchased just because I had the money to do so, and I just want to minimize that with all my businesses. But that can be the last one you upgrade for sure. All right, now that we've set up our nightclub, it's time to talk about the thing that you guys are here for: money. Or rather, how you can use your nightclub to make lots of money in the background while you drive around doing other stuff in the game. So the first source of income in your nightclub is the office safe, which accumulates a fixed $50,000 each day, as long as you keep that popularity meter maxed out. You can check your popularity by dropping into your nightclub every 48 minutes, and you'll receive either a bouncer mission or a VIP escort mission, depending on randomized chance. The bouncer missions are a lot faster than the VIP escort missions, and just last year, you could guarantee a troublemaker spawn by walking into the nightclub in passive mode, but someone at Rockstar caught on to this because that's been patched with the Agents of Sabotage update, but still you will get a lot of them. And honestly, even if you get a VIP escort mission, it takes less than 5 minutes and it will give you an easy 25% boost in popularity. Alternatively, if you don't want to waste any time driving around a drunk guy while sticking to the speed limit, you can also spend money and book a new DJ to freshen things up on the dance floor. This will give you a popularity boost, but the margin is much smaller at just 10%. The first time you hire a new DJ as well, just keep in mind you'll have to spend $100,000 on them, and every subsequent rebooking after that will cost $10,000. There are 4 DJs in total, and you get one of them for free at the start. So in practice, you just need to hire a second DJ, and then you can keep alternating and swapping between him and Solomon as many times as you want. Anything beyond a second DJ is unnecessary if you're a beginner. The only thing they do is just play different music and things like that. The third and final way of increasing popularity is by doing promotion missions for your nightclub. Now these can take upwards of 10 minutes, and they will give you a 25% popularity as a boost as well, similar to the bouncer and troublemaker missions. And there are different types of promotion missions. Some are a lot more tedious than others, and that's why I don't really recommend them. One of them is the blimp mission, in which you have to hover over an area while playing music. This one's awful just because the blimp is insanely slow and maneuvers like an oil tanker, so it takes you an eternity just to get between the various music spots, and while you're hovering, you have to make sure you don't go outside of the circle, otherwise your progress bar stops. Now I do have the Terabyte with the master control terminal installed, so I don't really have to deal with any of this. I just summon my Terabyte from the service vehicle section of the interaction menu and rebook a DJ for $10,000 to keep my popularity topped up at all times. But you can also just set your spawn location in nightclub as well. I do that a lot. If your popularity falls, your save will accumulate less cash daily, so it's important to not let your popularity fall too much, or else you'll lose a lot of passive income. Up to 90% popularity is where the cutoff is, and beyond this point, you'll lose a lot of cash. At 95%, you still get the full 50k a day. At 90%, it drops to 45k every in-game day. But once you go down to 85% popularity, your safe income will be just $25,000 for that day. And every day you lose 5% popularity, so don't go more than 2 in-game days without boosting the popularity of your nightclub. Now, say if you don't have the master control terminal, you can just spawn into your nightclub every 48 minutes, like I said earlier, by setting the nightclub as your spawn point and creating a new invite-only lobby. There's no need to buy a private quarters here, as your nightclub already comes with the one installed in your office, so just spawn in every other hour and Marcel will give you a bouncer or VIP escort mission, which should help you replenish your popularity back to full. With legal income out of the way now, it's time to talk about the secret warehouse in the basement section of your nightclub. And this is where the real magic happens, and it's also the most complex part of owning a nightclub. At first, it might seem intimidating because you have all these technicians, 7 different types of goods, and they all accumulate stock at different rates and different times. Who do you assign and to what? And when should you sell your goods? Don't worry, it's actually a lot simpler than you think, and I'm about to break it down for all of you who've yet to own a nightclub. Basically, the underground base in your nightclub is a smuggling racket, and you hire these technicians for each of your businesses. Now, once hired, these guys will go out on their own and source products for you, and no, they don't take existing stock from those other businesses, so you don't have to worry about your Coca-Cola lockup or your warehouse losing stock if you assign a technician to that business in the nightclub. The stock that these guys source is separate from the goods that you sell from those other businesses, and you don't have to spend a single cent on sourcing any of it. In fact, you don't have to do anything at all. You just have to assign technicians and watch those bars fill up with goods over time. Once you feel like there's an ample amount of stock, you can undertake a sell mission. So if you open up the sell goods tab on your nightclub management screen, you can see the maximum holding capacity for each type of good and the number of crates you have right now. I wouldn't bother selling unless you have at least $200,000 to $300,000 worth of product in your storage. Anything less than that isn't really worth the time in my opinion, and I sell just when I get to over $1 million. I don't wait for my nightclub to fill up fully because that takes too long, and I'm also losing some product that has already filled and reached capacity and generated versus waiting for just filling up the last bar of product that I need. That way I could do more sell missions over time and not sacrifice goods. But either way, which businesses make the most cash in your nightclub? You have 7 different options, but only 5 technicians, so it's important to choose wisely. Now, fortunately, we have the exact numbers on how much these businesses make, and it turns out that the grass as well as the document forgery office are the 2 least profitable ones, so ignore those entirely. Those are organic produce as well as printing and copying. What you do need to do is assign technicians to cargo and shipments, sporting goods, South American imports, pharmaceutical research, as well as cash creation. Cargo and shipments is tied to your CEO warehouse or the Hangar business, and this generates about $170,000 every 20 hours. If you have the storage upgrade, it can take up to 58 hours to max out the capacity, but ideally you don't need to wait more than 20 hours between nightclub sell missions because 3 of your other businesses, Coca-Cola, Math, and Cash, well, those will hit capacity and stop accumulating goods after 20 hours. And like I said earlier, if you wait any longer to sell, you're leaving money on the table. So do a sell mission about once every 20 hours with full Coca-Cola, Math, and Cash. Your Math lab is tied to the pharmaceutical research, and the Coca-Cola lockup is represented by South American imports. Sporting goods is where all your bunker product resides, and organic produce is where Snoop Dogg gets his magical green grass. Printing and copying refers to your document forgery business, something that no sane person should ever own in the first place, so you don't have to worry about that one in your nightclub warehouse as well, in addition to the grass farm. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the CEO warehouse, bunker, Coca-Cola lockup, and the cash factory, as well as the math, well, these are the only 5 goods worth sourcing, so assign your technicians to these. You get the first one for free, but every technician after that will cost you an increasing amount of money. The second one will cost you $141,000, and the final technician is worth $312,000. You can assign any technician to any business. They don't have any affinities or stats to make them better at a specific business or anything like that. That kind of would be cool, but it is what it is. And then the more expensive ones also just don't perform better. The only difference is that it's just Rockstar's way of making that grind just a little bit harder. Besides, you'll be making more than enough money after your first couple of techs, so you don't have to worry about the later ones getting more expensive and the fact that that will be draining your bank account. The cost of hiring them is nothing compared to the money that you'll be raking in from your nightclub in perpetuity once all 5 technicians are assigned to the corresponding correct businesses. Now, if you do a sell mission every 20 hours, you'll make about $50,000 per hour or $1 million per sell mission. Combine that with the $50,000 every in-game day that you make from your office safe, and that gives you over $100,000 per hour in passive income. And if you have a master control terminal, you don't even have to set foot in your nightclub except for the occasional sell mission. Alright, so we've come this far. It's now finally time to talk about selling your nightclub product. This is the only quote-unquote active part of running a nightclub because most of the other stuff just happens in the background. Before you do a sell mission, understand that Tony, the club's manager and your business partner, will take a 10% cut for himself. However, this is capped at $100,000, so if you sell for over $1 million, you'll get a higher portion of the money compared to selling just for $1 million or less. Also, there's a special order option which gives you a small bonus for delivering 3 specific types of goods to predetermined customers, but honestly, it's way simpler and more efficient to sell your entire stock the normal way, and that's what I do myself. But you can certainly try out the special orders if you want. There's no harm in it. Now, as for the sell mission itself, you'll always get one vehicle no matter how much product you have. This is another reason why I love the Nightclub so much, because it's super solo friendly. No messing around with multiple sell vehicles like with the Bunker and some other businesses. And if you have 89 crates or less, you'll get the Speedo Custom van. For 90 to 179 crates, you'll get the Mule Custom, which is the slowest and worst of the bunch, which, by the way, if you haven't purchased the Mule Custom yet for your Nightclub, do not buy it. If you have no sell vehicles purchased for the Nightclub, only buy the Speedo Custom as well as the Pounder. Avoid the Mule Custom, because once you have it, it's terrible. It'll take up that spot for the sale missions, and you'll mostly be using that if you sell at about $1 million earned for the Nightclub, and it just sucks for the sale missions. So on my main character, I'm screwed because I can't get rid of it, but on my second character, I only have the Speedo Custom and the Pounder Custom, and that way, whenever I'm selling like $1 million worth of Nightclub stock, it's always giving me the Pounder Custom because I don't have the Mule purchase, so it's not assigning me that vehicle for the sale mission. For many of you who already own the Nightclub, you'll probably be in the same boat as I am with my main character, but if you're like me with my second character where I haven't purchased it yet, don't do it. But overall, like I said, definitely get that Pounder Custom from Warstock Cash and Carry, as that will be substituted for the Mule Custom, even if you have less than 180 crates, but more than 90. If you have less than 90 crates, you can use the Speedo Custom for free, as that's what's included with your purchase of the Nightclub itself. Just I have to stress, do not obtain the Mule Custom if you can help it, or if you have not already. Now, if you want to sell in public lobbies and take advantage of the high demand bonus, I also recommend a few upgrades for your Pounder Custom, namely armor and weapons, but if you're playing in an invite-only session, there's no need to waste money on any delivery vehicle upgrades unless you just like the way they look. At least, performance I'll upgrade, but you don't need any of the other weapons and bells and whistles and things like that. The Garment Factory is one of those businesses in GTA Online that showed a lot of promise at the start, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside recently, as people tend to favor higher paying content like the Dr. Dre contract or even Cayo Perico, even though the FIB files really do have their own unique nature that makes them worth grinding despite the lower payouts in comparison. But before we begin, let me explain how you can get your hands on the Garment Factory. There's just one location, and it's this building right here on Mazebank Foreclosures. It will cost $2.35 million, and the interior is pretty much a one-to-one replica of the very same Garment Factory that you get in GTA 5 story mode, although this time Lester has been replaced by former FIB intelligence operative Jody Marshall, who's going to be your mission planner, as she still retains her backdoor access to every FIB server, shell company, archive, and network. You'll also find Pavel in here, although he doesn't exactly do much apart from making crappy jokes on the radio and eating, but that's why we love him, and that's why we're happy to see him part of this DLC. Anyways, here's how the Garment Factory works in terms of money making. You have your top floor where there are a bunch of workers on sewing machines making t-shirts and pants and sweaters, and all the income from the legit part of your business goes into this safe right here in this room. It's only $1,500 to $2,000 per day, so don't bother with it at all except for when the safe almost fills up all the way to 100k. That's when Jody reminds you to drop by and empty it. By the way, you also get a 10-car garage, exclusive Bureau Tech upgrades for your Terabyte, as well as 5 fast travel locations in the basement that function similarly to the SUV fast travel service inside of your agency, only with fewer options. I know a lot of people who just buy the Garment Factory for the missile jammer as well as the master control terminal upgrade for their Terabyte, but trust me, there is so much more to this business than just those simple upgrades. And to fully understand what that additional content brings, let's talk about how each heist is structured, as well as how to access these heists themselves. You can start any 4 of these FIB files from the computer in your Garment Factory, but as an alternative, Jody also loads the Darnell Bros app on your phone, which lets you pay the setup fee and start a heist straight from free roam. This is one of the main advantages to doing FIB files, and the thing that makes it so much more player friendly than any other type of content in the game. With Dr. Dre, you have to visit the agency every single time you want to start a new leak and mission. With the auto shop, you have to be inside of your auto shop at the job board to start a contract and to do each individual setup. Same thing with Cayo Perico, you need your Kosatka, but with FIB files, you can just open up your phone anytime you're in the free roam, select a new heist, pay the setup fee, and get started. And to make things even better here, the setups themselves are very modular and they can be done in any order you want. Every FIB file has the exact same layout. You have 3 setup missions and 1 finale. You get a base payout of $150,000 for the regular files, plus $50,000 in bonuses if you complete all 3 bonus objectives. Then there's also the weekly priority file, which, as you can guess by the name, is only available once per real life week, and this one pays double money, $300,000 for completion and an extra $50,000 if you do all 3 bonus objectives. As for how long it takes to do each of these files, I split them into 2 categories here. We have Fine Art and Project Breakaway as the easy, grindable ones. These are ideal for spamming them back to back to back. Then you have the Black Box and the Brute Force files, both of which will will take you slightly longer, and I don't find them as fun. However, I should point out here that even the difficult ones can reliably be done in well under 30 minutes every single time without using any glitches or warps. And with the 2 easy files, you can get that completion time down to just 15 to 20 minutes with some practice. Also, this goes without saying here, but all 4 of these files become significantly easier if you have an Oppressor Mark II, for example. If you're a veteran player, you probably have one already, but for all the new players watching this video, I have a guide on how to make millions of dollars as a level 1 player in GTA Online, which will give you a detailed roadmap as well, and you can use that and follow it to buy yourself your very own Oppressor Mark II super fast. Channel members also get 1 week early access to all of my new upcoming guides, so if you like these types of videos, well, consider joining up for some exclusive benefits as well. If we use 30 minutes as a baseline completion time for each FIB file, with all bonus objectives, that gives us $400,000 per hour just by doing the regular files. And that's certainly a more conservative estimate there. But regardless, remember, there is only a 5-minute cooldown between FIB files, so these are basically spicier versions of regular contact missions with a heist style setup phase. That's why I draw the comparison between the salvage yard vehicle robberies as well as the auto shop. This is more active grinding content, and each one of these FIB files is pretty unique in terms of theme and the combat scenarios. For example, Fine Art has you sneaking around like Sam Fisher inside a highly secure penthouse with night vision. Project Breakaway has you piloting an RC car and breaking into a highly secure vault full of hard drives that contain all sorts of info on every 3-letter agency's clandestine operations. In the black box file, you track down a ghost aircraft that belongs to the IAA, then you shoot it out of the sky, retrieve the black box, and execute an action-packed boat escape that looks like it came straight out of Modern Warfare 2. And finally, we have the brute force file, where you break into Fort Zancudo and steal a highly advanced tank called the Scarab that's packing a futuristic directed energy weapon. What I'm going to do is break down each individual file, as these comprise 99% of the interactive content in the Garment Factory, and they're also a really good moneymaker if you know what you're doing. So first, the Fine Art file. From a pure grinding POV, there is no better FIB file than this one and Project Breakaway. If you do this one right, you can make over $200,000 in less than 20 minutes, guaranteed. Probably closer to 16 to 18 minutes because this file is so easy. But first, you'll have to do 3 setup missions: facial recognition, approach vehicle, and EMP charges. You can do these in any order you want. I like to go with facial recognition first. Go to this location and steal a drone from the trunk of a felon. If you have an Oppressor Mark II, it's as easy as flying in, shooting everyone from the air, landing, and taking off with the cargo. Then, with your drone, go to a vantage point, which in my case is on the roof of this building right here. Jody will then message you a photo of the guy whose face you have to scan. This is Ray Trotman, the same person whose penthouse we're gonna break into a few minutes later. Just make sure your drone is close enough for his face to be in focus, and you'll successfully complete the scan. Then we'll also need to acquire some EMP charges for the next setup mission. And this is even faster than the last setup because you just have to fly to this power station over here, kill all of these guards, shoot down the container, and grab the charges, then fly back to your garment factory, and that's it, job done. There are a few different spawn points for the EMP charges, but basically it's the exact same mission no matter where you go. Probably the only part of the Fine Art file that will provide a challenge is the third and final setup, which is for our approach vehicle. This requires you to visit LSIA and break into a hangar that's on lockdown. So unless you blow up all of the terminals, the doors won't open and you won't be able to fly out with your helicopter. To enter the hangar, you just need to kill these guards near the stairs and run up. Or you can choose to land on the roof with your oppressor if you want, as there's a door up there. But once you're inside of the hangar, the top level of the hangar is where you'll be able to spot every single terminal that you need to destroy. So you just walk along this platform here and pay attention to your minimap so you know where the terminals are. Once all of the security controls are destroyed, you descend to the floor level and get into any helicopter of your choice. I either go with the Swift or the Kanata, as they're both super fast top speed wise, but you could take the Super Valido, the Buzzard, or any other helicopter. It won't really make that big of a difference, but if you want to save time, definitely pick a fast heli. Then in the finale for the Fine Art file, just land on this helipad, shoot this guard with a silenced weapon, take out the other 3 guards in the service room, and plant your EMP charges. Before you get into the service room though, there is a simple circuit board hack, and if you've never done this before, all it requires is the current to flow from the left side of the screen to the right. So just slide the pieces of the board up and down in a way that completes the circuit. Once all of the wires are connected, you're good to go. Then after detonating your EMP charges, you'll automatically equip night vision goggles. Once again, using a silenced gun, take out the remaining security. The door to the vault is hidden behind a wall, and you'll need to find a secret switch to activate this door. There is a signal strength indicator on the bottom right hand side of your screen that tells you how close you are to the switch, but ignore it and walk straight to this little round table right here. Every single time, without fail, the switch is going to be under this little table. And if you've used stealth so far, and if you found the switch within 60 seconds of entering the room, you've already completed 2 out of the 3 bonus objectives. Also, check one of the nightstands next to the bed in the bedroom, as there could be a glass right there you can get fingerprints on to reduce the next hack that's upcoming in this mission. The final bonus objective is stealing items from all 3 cabinets in the vault. But here's the trick. As soon as you pick up the primary loot, it will activate a pressure plate, which then releases poison gas, forcing you out of the vault. However, if you loot the side cabinets first, you'll also be able to grab the main loot and then walk away without any issues. So break the 2 side cabinets first, stealing those items, then take the primary loot. And for the escape, just kill all the enemies, call in your Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow, and fly back away from the mission, and that's it. Fine art file done. And it won't take you more than 20 minutes for an easy $205,000 with all 3 bonus objectives, even if you're a really slow player at completing this mission. When I money grind it on stream, I can typically do it in 16 to 17 minutes. Project Breakaway is also quite simple and shouldn't take you more than 20 to 25 minutes. First, we're going to do the mobile tracking setup, for which we need to steal a special RC car with a tracker device planted inside it, and then we need to drive this RC car into the back of an Eberhard munitions van. Jody will give you 3 locations on the map, but one of them will be stationary. I recommend going after either of the circles that are moving, as their movement will give you a really good idea of exactly where the van's going to be, since the circles are drawn with the van at the center. So find the van. It's going to be one of these white ones with Eberhard written on the side. Hack into it to open the rear door and drive in with your RC car. Then for the thermal charges setup, you'll have to go to the post-op depot and secure a photo of a delivery list. Then Jody will give you the coordinates to the warehouse that contains your thermal charges. So fly out there, shoot all the guards, grab your charges, and fly back to the garment factory. That won't take you more than 5 minutes. The final setup is an encryption bypass, and for this one, you'll have to break into an apartment in Vespucci Canals. Once inside, you hack into this keypad to open the basement gate. It's a simple timing based hack, so just line up the notches with the red bar in the center, and you're done. After you've secured the malware from the basement, you'll also need to kill the FIB agent who's fleeing away from the house. If you have an Oppressor Mark II, it's super easy and only takes a couple missiles to blow up his car. Send a photo of his charred body as proof to Jody, and you'll complete the mission. The finale is as straightforward as it gets as well. Use Trackify to home in on the building where the Eberhard van is being stored, then shoot up the guards and use your RC car to destroy the poison gas dispenser. Walk in, do this simple word puzzle hack, and steal the hard drives as well as the black books and the other loot that remains, then fly away and deliver the contents to the buyer. Mission complete. Number 3 is the black box file, and this one's going to take you a little bit longer, primarily because it has all these scripted sequences where the game artificially restricts your pace. Otherwise, the missions themselves are quite simple, and this is also where you'll discover the true value of the Oppressor Mark II, because without it, these missions will take you a lot more time and it's just super tedious. So make sure you have an Oppressor if you're going to grind the black box file over and over in the future. So there are 3 setups as usual: hacking device, sonar equipment, and weaponized aircraft. Hacking device and sonar equipment are both very streamlined in terms of their mission structure. In a hacking device, you visit a rooftop on La Puerta, kill some thugs, grab the device from one of these tables, and plant it atop the LSIA control tower, the one with a big spinning radar dish. In the sonar equipment mission, you have to visit the docks and steal the equipment from this tugboat right here. Very minimal resistance. Also, I definitely recommend parking your Oppressor on the docks and diving into the water to get to the tugboat, because while you technically can park your Oppressor right next to the chest containing the hacking device, sometimes it'll get stuck in there and you can't use it to fly away. The third and final setup, weaponized aircraft, is also the most complex one here. The game will tell you to steal a Tula aircraft from a Merryweather barge that's parked off the coast on either the northwestern part of the map or on the eastern side, and that's fine. But here's the issue: unless you have an Oppressor or a weaponized helicopter, you'll have to take the crappy dinghy over to the barge, and it's being guarded by a couple of speedboats and some buzzards. Having an Oppressor Mark II makes these enemies trivial, because you can just skip the dinghy and board the barge directly. But then the game will gaslight you into thinking that you have to destroy some more Merryweather helicopters with the awful front-mounted machine guns on the Tula. Not only are these machine guns insanely weak, but the Tula is also really slow and not very maneuverable and kind of a piece of crap, which makes it a pain to shoot down the buzzard wave reinforcements. So here's what you can do. As soon as you enter the Tula, you'll start to see the 3 red dots spawn on your minimap, and the text will appear saying take out the Merryweather helicopters. Right then and there, exit your Tula, go back to your Oppressor and use it to turn all the buzzards into scrap metal within seconds, or you can use your railgun or heavy explosive sniper rounds. After all the buzzards and enemy reinforcements have been dispatched, take the Tula and fly back to LSIA to complete the mission. You'll save nearly 3 to 4 minutes of time if you do it this way, guaranteed. For the finale, you can safely ignore all of the helicopters. Instead, just focus on hacking the cargo plane and shoot out the engines until it goes down. Then when you dive in, you'll have to collect 2 additional pieces of loot that are placed on the right and left sides of the airplane fuselage. With these 2 collected, head inside and place a C4 charge to open up the room that contains the black box. Honestly, Rockstar's awful swimming controls are the real enemy here, not the aimbotting NPCs who keep shooting at you even though you're totally underwater. But thankfully, there's no time limit for this mission. Just take it easy, head back up to the surface, and get into this friendly dinghy right here. You can't pilot it, but you can still shoot, and I recommend using any accurate submachine gun for this part of the mission because it's essentially a rail shooter sequence like the ones you get in COD story missions with heavily scripted set pieces, and you have to get 5 5 or more kills in this part of the mission for one of the bonus objectives. If you've retrieved the 2 additional pieces of loot from the ocean floor, that was the second bonus objective right there, and if you destroyed all 4 plane engines, that's the third bonus objective. But now you have to kill 5 people during this scripted chase scene, and the easiest way to do this is by shooting police officers who pull up in their cars right next to the riverbank. They have very little health, and you can easily drop them with just a couple rounds. Don't try and shoot the helicopters, you just won't be accurate enough to kill the pilots since the boat is moving around constantly, and your aim is going to keep shifting as you fire. So instead, go for those cops on the riverbanks, and you'll easily complete your third bonus objective. You can also let your character take so much damage that you die, and you'll respawn next to a sea shark that you can take, and then shoot the enemies manually that way. That also works, and that's kind of my preferred way of completing this mission. Okay, now it's finally time for the brute force file, and I'd say the most challenging part of this file is the finale, particularly the stealth requirement, but there's an easy route you can take to guarantee 100% stealth till the final zone, and I'll show it soon. First, let's do the 3 setups. For brute force, you need 3 things: private military armor, infiltration equipment, and the override key. I like to do infiltration equipment first, and for this one, you have to steal a military vehicle from one of the many lockups around Los Santos. If the game gives you a faraway location, just cancel out and restart. Then, fly to the lockup, shoot the NCO with your oppressor, grab his key card, and head inside. You don't have to fight all the guards in the lockup, but the 2 vehicles you want are stashed all the way in the back. These are the Crusader and the Mesa. The Crusader is going to be slightly faster than the Mesa, but either one will serve you well, as they'll both get you to Fort Zancudo within 5 minutes, even if you follow the default GPS route given to you by the game. But there's an even faster way to get to Fort Zancudo, and for that, just drive along this freeway next to Vinewood Hills, and then take a left to this shortcut on Sonora Road. There are 3 bonus objectives here: stealth inside the base, which I already mentioned earlier, getting to Fort Zancudo in under 5 minutes for the finale, and lastly, you must destroy 5 vehicles with the Scarab. The actual setups for the brute force are some of the easiest. In fact, the override key has literally 0 combat. You just walk into the music locker next to Diamond Casino, find this guy with the black cap and gray shirt, and he hands it over to you. But the real action takes place in the finale, which is what I'm going to be focusing on here. So once you're in Fort Zancudo and you've taken the elevator to the basement level, follow this exact route that I'm showing you. Even if you clip a guard's vision cone for a fraction of a second, don't worry, they're not going to set off the alarm as long as you move fast and get out of their line of sight. Just stick to the right side of both rooms, and when you get to this container area here, what you're going to want to do is take cover and wait for this guard to pass by. Then you'll just have this one tunnel between you and area A where the Scarab is being stored. This guard will sometimes shoot his gun as he's falling down, so even if you get a perfect headshot or pistol whip him, there is a chance that you'll break stealth. I wasn't unlucky this time, but I've seen it happen before, so if you want to be extra safe, which is definitely what I recommend, just hug this wall and wait for him to pass by. Then rush into area A, where you'll find 3 guards as well as a Juggernaut. You could hold an angle near the door and pop heavy sniper rounds into the Juggernaut's head until he eventually goes down, but I've got a much better way to kill him. You take cover behind this green box right here, pull out your grenade launcher, and shoot from cover without aiming. If you shoot from cover, the grenade launcher's fire rate is increased dramatically, and you'll dump 6 or 7 rounds in no time, and then the Juggernaut will get vaporized before he even gets a chance to fire back. Then what you're going to want to do is get into the Scarab, use the override key, and on your way out with that vehicle, use the roof-mounted machine gun to shoot these 2 vehicles that are coming straight at you. You have to use the awful roof-mounted machine gun to get that 5 vehicle bonus. There is no other way. Thankfully, NPC cars also count, so as soon as you get outside, pull a U-turn, go over the tunnel right here, and drop down onto the freeway. Then you can start shooting at NPC cars on your way to the delivery point rather than taking out the enemies pursuing you. And with that, you should have absolutely no trouble completing all 3 bonus objectives for the brute force file. Despite Rockstar's best attempts at nerfing it, Cayo Perico remains the #1 way to make over $1 million in under an hour in GTA Online, and not only is it extremely easy to set up once you have a Sparrow helicopter, but the payout is also very good, even though Rockstar has reduced the value of all primary targets and made it so you get Cincimito tequila most of the time, which is the most awful loot possible. But if you're a new player, none of this really matters because you probably don't even know how to do the equipment prep or walk through the main compound without getting caught. I'll show you how you can easily master Cayo to make over $1 million solo, and the best part is you can follow the exact same pattern every time, using stealth to secure that elite challenge, and if you use the tips I'm about to give you, you'll also be able to finish this whole heist in well under an hour. But first we need to unlock the Kosatka submarine, which will be our base of operations for this entire heist. It has the planning screen, the nav computer, and the moon pool where we're going gonna store our Sparrow. Now, you can certainly just buy this submarine by spending 2.2 million and you'll get all your money back in just 2 Cayo runs, but I also highly recommend saving an extra $1.8 million for the Sparrow helicopter as well, since it's the fastest grinding tool in this stage of the game before you get your hands on something like an Oppressor Mark II. Just do a few extra Cluck and Bell farm raids, do some no way out quest lines, whatever you need to gather up that extra 1.8 million and save it for a Sparrow. You're gonna thank me later. Once you have the cash, it's time to visit Miguel, aka Mini Madrazo, and he can be found in the music locker, which is over here next to the Diamond Casino. After the cutscene ends, all you have to do is open up Warstock on your phone, buy the Kosatka submarine, and meet up with your shipmate Pavel. I also recommend going into the pause menu and setting the Kosatka as your spawn point, and what this does is allow you to switch into a new session and spawn right inside your Kosatka without having to actually travel there, no matter where you are on the map. So set your Kosatka as the spawn point and start up the very first mission, which is gather intel. On your first playthrough, you'll watch a cutscene where you fly to Cayo Perico from LSIA along with English Dave and some of his friends. Over at the island, you'll meet the criminal mastermind himself, El Rubio, and you're gonna drive him around for a bit until you get to this giant tent right here where there's a big party going on. Get out, sneak off to the side, and stick close to the right side of this path so you can stay hidden from all the vehicle patrols. Then sneak through this checkpoint while avoiding the cameras and walk all the way through the funny grass fields to this communication tower where you can hack into Rubio's CCTV feed. The place you want to search for is the basement, and on your very first Cayo run, you're going to get the documents as your loot, but on subsequent runs, this will change to a combination of Cincimito tequila, a ruby necklace, bearer bonds, and the pink diamond. Next, you'll want to scout El Rubio's office room to check if he has any paintings on his wall, and at this stage, you might feel like your job here is done, but we still need to scout all our entry and exfil points. You can find dedicated video guides for this stuff online, and I have a few guides myself, but there are a few points of interest that you absolutely must scout with your phone camera before returning to Los Santos. First is this place right here, the hangar on the airstrip, which contains some secondary loot. Then there's a shed on the other side with some more secondary loot. And you can find a bunch of Manchez dirt bikes all over the island, so use them to travel around faster, but just be careful not to run into any trees or bushes. Once you've scouted the airstrip, head for this place right here. It's the north entry point for your Annihilator stealth helicopter, and right above that we've got the north docks. We won't be using this in our approach, but it's still nice to have for future runs if you want to switch things up. Then head over here to this checkpoint that we've scouted earlier, and this time, since you have a bike, follow the path that I'm showing you to jump over the checkpoint. Simply angle your bike towards this hill, make sure the guard on the tower isn't looking at you, then pin the throttle and you'll fly right over the checkpoint in about a second. Once you land over on the other side, head down here to the main dock. And send a photo to Pavel. Scout the dock as well as the sheds containing your secondary loot, then grab yourself one of these dinghies and head to this part of the island where you can see El Rubio's office building above the cliff walls. Then simply dive underwater. Pavel will tell you about the drainage tunnel, so take a photo of it and get back on your boat. Congratulations, because this is the exact infiltration point that we're going to use to get into Rubio's compound without alerting any of the guards. It is the easiest entry point of them all, and to pull it off, we just need a cutting torch. At this stage, you've already scouted everything that we need for the final approach, so go ahead and open up your pause menu, go to online, and select the new invite-only lobby to teleport right back inside your Kosatka. Now, it's finally time to do our prep missions, and this is where you're really going to see the benefits of purchasing that Sparrow helicopter. First, I like to do approach vehicle, and for this one, we're going to go with the long fin, as it's the easiest and the fastest way to move around the island undetected. Now, you could spend $2.5 million on your personal Phantom Wedge, and it will make this mission a whole lot faster since you can just call in your personal truck right outside the police station and drive away with the boat. But since you're a beginner and this is a beginner's guide, you probably don't have a vehicle cargo warehouse or the Phantom Wedge, so here's what you can do instead. Fly towards the police station in your Sparrow helicopter, and as you get closer, Pavel will text you 2 different GPS coordinates, each containing a truck. The one with 2 trucks on it, I don't actually recommend using that one. Instead, go for the icon on your map with just 1 truck, because that's where you'll find a free Phantom Wedge, and this thing is just so good at tossing traffic and police cars out of your way that it will make your drive back to the safe house a trivial matter. Make sure to pull out a sniper and deal with this heavy machine gunner first, otherwise he's probably going to ruin your day. Then clear out the remaining thugs and drive over to the police station in your pointy nose semi-truck. Once you get there, just pause for a second, pull up your map, and mark this exact location on Elysian Island right here. This will save you from having to sit through Pavel's yapping as you drive out of the station with your truck. Now, you've got 2 options here. Either you run in, kill all the cops, and blow yourself up to remove your wanted level, or you drive in, reverse into the boat, and drive away to the docks where you'll then park right outside this warehouse and blow yourself up to remove your wanted level. Either option works, but I found that just hooking up the truck to the long fin and hauling cheeks to the docks is the faster of the two methods, since you skip the entire firefight with the police. And if you do it this way, you can complete the whole vehicle prep start to finish in just 5 minutes. After securing my approach vehicle, I next like to do unmarked weapons with the aggressor loadout, since it has the assault shotgun and it's also really good at taking out the juggernaut. And for this mission, you simply start it and check the bottom of your screen to see if it says Merryweather. If you see the word Merryweather there, immediately pull up your pause menu and hop into a new invite-only session to reset this mission. And that's because the Merryweather weapons prep, where you chase the Valkyrie around for 15 minutes, is without a shadow of a doubt some of the most god-awful mission design to ever come out of Rockstar's collective minds. So just skip it, and keep skipping it until you get the Penrith building or 707 Vespucci. Then fly your Sparrow to the location, and also remember this: never, ever walk in through the ground level, because that's how you get into an unnecessary gunfight and die. Instead, fly all the way up to the roof, land like this, walk in and shoot this door with a silenced weapon that you have, take out this guard, these two guards over here, and lastly this guard behind the desk. What you need to do after that is hack the laptop, grab your guns, and exit back to the roof. Then simply fly back to your Kosatka and you're done. Just like that. No extended gunfights. The whole thing is wrapped up in under 4 minutes. For the equipment prep, we need exactly 3 things here: a fingerprint scanner, a cutting torch, and a key for that safe. If you're doing subsequent runs of Cayo, you'll sometimes get the loot in the display case, and in those cases, you're gonna need the plasma cutter, and I'll explain how to do both. First, head to the casino for your safe key, park your Sparrow right here near the main dock entrance, walk in, find the key card for the penthouse suites, and find the room with the 2 guards in front of it. What you need to do is take both of them out with a silenced gun, and before entering, make sure to check the room number. If it's 518, the head of security will be in the party area right next to this bar over here. If it's in room 505, he'll be in the office room over here, and if it's in room 512, he's going to be chilling out in the bedroom, which is the closest spawn, as it's just past this door on the right from where you enter. Then if you get the plasma cutter mission instead, here's how to do it the fastest way. Simply enter the document forgery office, just take 2 steps forward, pull out your cell phone, snap a photo of whatever's in front of you, then walk right back out the door and fly to the location where the plasma cutter is being held. Once you get there, use your Sparrow's homing missiles to make short work of all the bad guys, land, grab the gear, and fly back to your Kosatka once again. Easy as that. And then for the cutting torch mission, you have to visit a construction site. But instead of barging in like a brute, just grab this yellow construction helmet, which is always near the entrance of the job site, and use it to sneak past the guards. This way, you can search for the torch in peace without a bunch of people shooting at you the entire time. And lastly, for the fingerprint scanner, there's really nothing to add here, to be honest. It's a simple go here, take out some enemies, fly back with the equipment kind of job, and it shouldn't take you more than 4 to 5 minutes if you have that Sparrow helicopter. Alright then, with all the prep work wrapped up, it is finally time for the main course, aka the finale for the Cayo Perico heist, and this is where we're about to make the big bucks. Pay very close attention to the route that I'm about to show, because it's easily repeatable with a high level of consistency, no matter the loot type, and if you follow this path, you will never get caught and you'll never fail a single fingerprint hack. First, pick the long fin as your approach vehicle, then go with the main docks as your infiltration point, and for the compound entry, we're going to take the drainage gate, as that's what we scouted earlier in the gather intel mission. Time of day should be daytime for better visibility, and for weapons, you'll obviously have your aggressor loadout you chose. Start the finale with all these options selected, and as soon as the loading cutscene ends, pull a hard left with your long fin by holding down the handbrake button, head for the airstrip by passing in between these rocks right here, and park your boat right next to the beach. Walk in with your gun, which will automatically have a silencer equipped since you're doing a stealthy approach. Take out this camera, these 2 guards, and then lastly, this guard patrolling near the hangar. Check the ground level for loot, then take the forklift to check the upper levels. If you can't get a full loot bag in here, simply what you need to do is run across the airstrip and take out this guard who's patrolling the dirt road, climb over the wall, destroy this camera, kill this guard with a headshot, and you'll find the rest of your secondary loot in this shed right here. Take your loot back around the island until you arrive at El Rubio's compound, dive in with a rebreather equipped, and start cutting through those steel gates. Then, once you're inside, follow this path that I'm showing once again. First, climb up these stairs, then what you need to do is hug this wall on your right and run straight across the courtyard, pull a left at these palm trees, then another right near these stairs, and climb up. But before you head into the building, wait for this one guard to turn around. Once he's standing there in this little section right there, out of the Juggernaut's line of sight of course, drop him as well. If you take him out before he turns right here, the Juggernaut will spot his dead body and your cover will be broken. So just wait a second for him to go to the side, then take him out. Next, eliminate this guard right here and walk up the stairs until you come across this guy who's heading down from El Rubio's office. Don't shoot him just yet, because if you miss and hit the wall, you'll also alert everyone underneath. So what you need to do instead is walk up close and pistol whip him in the face to knock him out cold. Then open this wall safe for some extra cash and head to the fingerprint scanner. For the fingerprint hack, all you have to do is align the images in each row so they match the top image, and then just scroll right n-1 times, where n is the row number. So for example here, I know this is a little bit confusing, but in the first row, you don't have to scroll at all. For row number 2, you scroll to the right once. For row number 3, you scroll to the right twice, and so on. Do the hack, grab your loot, and head back down the stairs in reverse, but instead of opening the small gate, just jump over this fence and wait for this guard to move away. Then run towards the main gate and hit the exit button. Outside, you're going to find a bike waiting for you. So just eliminate this guard, hop on that bike, and drive down this pathway that I'm showing you here. Until you get to the cliffs. Then simply pop a wheelie and get as much airtime as you can before you drop into the water. As soon as you drop inside, you'll see this triangle of sea mines facing you, and that means that you're on the right path. Just make sure to keep swimming forward until the escape Cayo Perico text disappears from the bottom of your screen, and you'll have completed your very first Cayo in full stealth with the Elite Challenge. And that's it. That's all I have for this beginner's guide. If you like this video, don't forget to drop a like on it. Consider subscribing to the channel for more GTA 5 online guides just like this. Check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/hazardoushdtv for more GTA Online money grinding live streams. And I'll see you guys in the next GTA Online video. Adios, amigos.